Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 255. I am Peter and joining me once again is Matt.
I love how you change it from as always to once again because of this crazy month.
Yeah, this one's made that sentence just completely inaccurate, so I'll bring it back in a few weeks.
Seems good. Yeah.
It's been an odd month. It's been an odd month. I was just saying before we started that this is the first time this whole month that I've recorded this on a Saturday, which is weird because we did like 4 years in a row with nothing but Saturdays.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the flexibility a little bit, helps with certain things, not with others. But yeah.
Yes. Let's not pretend that Matt's main focus this week's been on comics. He's been pulling his hair out on Twitter over hockey. I don't know what's going on. I just see him getting very upset.
Game 7s do that to you, but thankfully the Knights won and moved on, and now they get to play the number 1 team to their number 2 team. So it's a little less angerfying because there's no should've, because Colorado's clearly been the better team. But yeah, it was a rough week. Tell you that much.
Well, game 8 is going to be even more scary
game
then.
8, no game 8. Then now it goes to game 1.
Well, no.
Restart the series.
Well, the joke is, Matt, is I don't really understand what game 7. And no, I want to explain. I'm okay not knowing.
No. You just finished Mighty Ducks Game Changers. You should know a little bit. I
don't think the phrase Game 7 ever came up that entire show.
That's in youth hockey they don't do tournaments like that. I don't think.
They went to
sevens.
There was a lot of talk of states. They went to states. There was states.
Yeah, so that'd be a state tournament. That's single loss.
Yes. There was none of this Game 7 malarkey. This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together and we talk about the DC Comics we read this week. And coming up on this week's show, we have Detective Comics 1036, Action Comics 1031, Robin issue 2, Stargirl Spring Break Special issue 1. We have Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom issue 1, Batman Superman issue 18, and of course Strange Adventures issue 10. So it's a pretty busy week, and a lot of big books this week, actually, a lot of important books. Not big in page count per se, but this is not like a couple of weeks ago where we had the 100-page mammoth and then the big anthology book alongside it. But a lot of interesting books to talk about. We also have Solicits. It is that time of the month, although it's not really that time of the month. They're late. They are super late. They came out Wednesday this week, which is the latest I have ever seen the Solicits come out. So get your shit together, DC, because this is really messing with my my schedule, my monthly podcast schedule. So yeah, we'll talk about those. But naturally, we're going to start with everyone's favorite segment. It's the ComiXology Top 10, baby.
Every time I leave and come back, I forget. I could cheat and just remember, but I can't.
I don't know what sort of weird household Matt grew up in where he was told that remembering is cheating, but
what I mean is I could just look forward and then just spoil it, but I don't even think to do that.
Ah, sure, yes. Well, no, don't do that. That's fun.
Exactly. And I always forget. You know why? Because I'm a good boy.
Yes.
And I don't even think like that. So, I have honor.
Of course. So we are looking at the top 10 digital books on ComiXology, specifically the UK one, but I don't think it makes much difference. The idea is that these change every day, but at the time of recording of the podcast, which is back to the usual Saturday, as I mentioned before, so we'll look and see what made the top 10. Number 1 is a Marvel book, X-Men issue 20.
Okay. Is
number 1. Number 2 is another Marvel book, technically, and by technically I mean it's Star Wars, so I don't really count it as Marvel. Darth Vader issue 12. And then issue 3 is the high-selling DC Comics book, as of right now, on ComiXology of the week. What do you think it is, Matt?
They came out this week?
This week.
Let me see what books came out this week, because it's been a minute. I'm going to say it is... Let's go Robin.
No, not Robin.
No. Yeah.
Not Robin. What's the safe bet? What's the safe bet every time this question's asked?
I always go to Batman, but I don't want it to be Batman.
I mean,
is it Detective?
It is Detective Comics. Which,
See, I want it to be though.
Yeah.
I want it to be surprised.
Detective 1036 is number 3 overall and the highest DC book. Then we're back to Marvel at number 4 with New Mutants issue 18. And then we return to DC, Strange Adventures issue 10 at number 5. That is nice to see that still doing well. Those high quality books doing well. I guess we're back to Marvel again because now they own this. But Alien issue 3 is number 6. And then we have Action Comics 1031 at number 7. Another Star Wars book at number 8, which is Dr. Aphra, issue 10. And then Robin issue 2 comes in at number 9. And then we have our first non-DC or Marvel book at number 10, which is Monstrous issue 34 from Image. And then just to sort of show where the little DC books pop in. Right after that, number 11 is Batman Superman, issue 18. So that's neat. And then I'm just glancing down the rest of this. Teen Titans Academy comes in at number 16, that looks like. So a little bit further down. And I'm just going to page 2 now to see where Stargirl. Oh, look, it's at the top of page 2. It's that'll be number 20. Number.
Okay.
Amazing on a page. There's 24. I wish they numbered these on the full layout. So that'll be 26. Number 26 is Stargirl Spring Break Special. Followed immediately by the other History of the DC Universe, number 4. So, and then Mr. Miracle's a bit further down in the 30s. So, but I mean, I don't think anyone expected that to be a super high selling book. I would say so.
No,
but hey, not a bad top 10 for DC. They got 3 books in there. 4 books in there. Four's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
I
mean, on this week, just seems like X-Men's still killing it because it's X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Like, people are. I feel like I don't hear anybody ever talking about X-Men though. It's weird. Like it's the best selling, but across Twitter, I never see it except for this Hellfire Gala thing, where people are talking about how they're all dressed and stuff, and it's just weird. Not my scene. I don't care about that type of stuff.
I mean, just the circles are so separate, maybe, that we just don't encounter it. That's the only thing. There's an X-Men bubble, and if you're in that X-Men bubble, you're all you're doing is talking about all these X-Men books. But for those of us on the outside of it, we're not hearing much of it. Nightwing did very well last week. Nightwing was like really high ranking last week, so
as well it should be.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I mean, last week we had the trifecta of Nightwing, Catwoman, and Wonder Girl, which were all very
bing
high rated on the show. So
just Pam V just continues to kill it, and then as we all know, our love of patron saint Tom Taylor.
Yes.
So
and their shared love of Dick.
Yes. Wait.
Man. Actually, that's become a funny thing because when we were discussing Catwoman last week, because Connor hadn't read the anthology book yet, the Asian Celebration, and
I had no idea about shoes. Huh?
I had to break it. I had to sort of. Well, by the way, I'm going to be talking about this character's shoes quite a bit. Here's why. So I told him on the show who she was. Just quick bullet point. I'm going to do a similar thing here with you because a patron's making me read Joker again. And so I read it. So it's a month behind, but I read issue 2 last week and talked about it on the show. So I'll say spoilers for Joker issue 2 if you're like behind on that book and you don't want it spoiled. But Gordon knows that Barbara's Oracle used to be Batgirl and is known for years. And it was an interesting development in the story.
I like that though, just because I like the fact that like he's dad, and of course he's gonna notice his daughter. It's
a good one-on-one conversation moment, and she kind of pulls him up on a couple of things that he said to Batgirl in the last couple of years when he knew who she was, and it comes across as a bit. And obviously, this is a little bit of I'm sure when they wrote those stories and they had him say certain things, they weren't actually intended to be him knowing she's Barbara, but they're making it work now.
That's good.
I thought I'll update because I assume it's going to come up at some point that Gordon knows who she is. Didn't this week, but but your crazy month is over, so at least you should be up to date with the books now.
No, I kept reading everything. I just wasn't going to read Joker. Because,
sure. I meant more up to date on the ones you're not reading because you're on the show. As opposed to
there's not a lot.
Connor, whose schedule's like forever in flux these days.
Well, and here's the thing though. I still enjoy reading comics, and I make my time even at work. So like I put down my iPad, which that was a whole thing this week. Apparently, my work Wi-Fi sucks, and I keep getting charged data overages from my cell company because I was deciding to watch some things on a break, like NXT or AEW, and it's jacked up my data. So I put down my iPad this week and hammered through my comics. So of course I'm up to date. I don't like to get behind like Connor does. That's just not good for life.
Yeah, Connor has some weird binges sometimes where he'll be like, I've got to read 3 weeks worth of comics before tomorrow, and he'll just sit and do it like a madman.
And to me, you can't enjoy it. Like, that's all on him, right? Like, but to me, you can't enjoy it when you're binging stuff like that. It's even like I had a friend get on me about watching Bad Batch, and I'm just so going through and watching them. I'm just like, this is good, but it's not amazing. But maybe it's just because I'm binging it and I'm not like there for it. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, TV I definitely prefer weekly as a format. And I mean, I kind of binge the comics, and most weeks I will read them all on the night before and the day of recording. Like I tend to just sort of let them. Right. But we're talking like 6 to 8 books when I do that.
Not 3 weeks worth. Not 24 books sometimes.
Yeah, Connor sits down.
That's a lot.
Because he sat and read like a whole omnibus in a day, and it's as if that's normal. And I'm sure many people do. Some people just sit and read because that's what they want to do.
On these, like, you can murder a dog with one of those. That's a lot of pages.
So yeah, anyway, that's ComiXology top 10, I guess. And us chastising Connor for something while he's not here, because why not? All right. DC Comics solicitations for August 2021. There was a couple of news things that we did talk about last week because they released the usual little early highlights, but there's some stuff in here that is new, and we'll run down the list as we always do. The first thing on here is actually a graphic novel, kind of. I mean, honestly, it's more of an anthology, but it's big enough, and I think it's getting a hardcover, so it is a graphic novel, effectively. It's called Batman the World. It's the first thing on the solicits. I was like, what the hell is this? And it's basically an anthology with teams representing different countries telling Batman stories around the world. The US team is Azzarello and Bergamo. And then there's a big list of other countries with teams. We got Poland in there, Italy, Mexico, Brazil. Yeah, I'm not going to read them all, but there's
I don't like how they group North America as a group. That would be like taking, Spain, Italy, and Germany, Czech, Russia, Poland, and be like, Europe. Just say, well, Mexico's part of North America too. These solicits.
Yeah, I mean,
no respect for geography.
And the list of the creators, it just says USA. It doesn't say North America. So,
but yeah, a lot of these names I do not recognize, which is kind of cool because that means they're getting a spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense because they're all. I mean, obviously, we do get a lot of, like, especially artists, we get a lot of foreign artists who end up in mainstream comics, but it makes sense that a lot of these creators are, they make comics in their own country, in their own language, and we don't necessarily see them all that much. So, it's kind of interesting. And as funny as it would be for me to try and pronounce the 50 names that are in this list, I'm going to just move on.
You know what? Why don't we try the Czech ones first?
The Czech ones? All right, where's Czech on this list?
It's right after Germany. So you have Thomas von Kumant, and then you have Stepan Kopriva. It's the one after Czech Republic. So let's see who are they. Oh, they're the Polish ones.
All right, Polish. Ertan Ergil and Ethom Onur Bilgic.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's my best attempt to go for you.
The Czech one, I know this from watching hockey, is that the Tomas with the Z is Tomáš. I'm not even going to try the last name. Kolo
Zajic.
Yeah. We know that from wrestling. And then, of course, Piotr Kowalski. That one's pretty easy. And then Brad Simpson. Thanks, Brad.
Is he really Polish? I don't know if I buy that he's Polish.
You know what, though? I mean, we have a lot of, Polish names in America. Why couldn't we have more anglicized names in Poland?
True. So people can move the other way. That happens.
Yeah. But yeah, just seeing that after Peter Kowalski, Brad Simpson, and then Ertan Esteban and Pedro Mayaro.
Of all things, that reminded me of Dude, Where's My Car? of all things, there's a scene where they're introduced to all these cultists, and they all have like these weird names beginning with Z, where it's like, you know, Zathur, Zethro, Xantar, and I guess the one guy is just like, Geoff.
Geoff, yeah. Oh, come on, Geoff.
Not a good movie, obviously, but
I like that movie. I'm not gonna say it's good.
I mean, have you seen it since like 2000s?
No, I tried to talk Ashley into watching it, and we ended up watching How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days instead. But yeah, I'm kind of afraid to. But I used to watch Dude, Where's My Car all the time. So
the actor who played Shooter McGavin was announced to be in something the other day. I think it was Secret Invasion, the Disney Plus show.
Okay.
And people were posting gifs of Shooter McGavin, and I'm like, do you know what? I kind of want to go back and watch Happy Gilmore, but I'm scared that I'm going to hate it now.
No, because it's gonna be the same. That's some of the Happy Gilmore is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Everything still hits the same. For Sandler, there's not a lot of uncomfortable comedy in that one. It's probably his most straightforward. You know, Billy Madison almost has more uncomfortable moments in 2021. Where you're kind of cringy just because, you know, it's not as funny when you're in your 30s. That said, there's still some stuff that's very good. But Happy, I would definitely give it another watch. That one's always on when we watch here. Plus, you know, then if you really get incensed, you can watch Hubie Halloween.
Oh, no. Why would I do that to myself? That's just
it's not terrible. It's not great, but it's definitely not terrible. It fits into that. I'll tell you what, it gets the Halloween vibe and tone better than most Halloween set movies. So
yeah,
I'll give it that.
I mean, if I'm going to choose between that and Ernest Scared Stupid, I'm going to pick Ernest Scared Stupid. Okay.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, Solicits.
Yes. Batman Fear State Alpha Issue 1. What is this, you may ask? Well, we talked about this last week, but Matt may not know what it is because he wasn't here last week. So Batman, it's not really, I mean, they keep calling it a bit of a crossover and event. Honestly, the arc that's going to start in Batman in September is a 6 issue arc that's sort of the culmination of all the Scarecrow stuff that's been building with Sane and all that. What they're doing beforehand, though, is that this is going to affect other parts of the DC, or at least the Gotham sort of, corner of the universe. Which makes sense because even Catwoman's issue last week kind of brought in the Saint stuff, and it feels like it's all connected.
It's what I'm liking about comics, and I said this last week about, for the first time since pre-Flashpoint, it feels like DC Comics are interconnected, and it doesn't feel like, oh, you have to read Catwoman to also enjoy Detective. But if you are reading both, you get that sense of a larger picture.
Yeah,
and it feels nice. So if this is not an event in like the way that Death Metal, but like it's a story event, almost like what was that? When the earthquake hit, No Man's Land in Gotham, kind of like that. So
yeah. So what they're doing in August is we're getting this one shot, which has obviously it's Tynion. We got Riccardo Federici as the main team.
How often have we seen Federici on interiors? I thought Federici is always covers. So that's pretty exciting.
I feel like I have, but yeah, it's not often.
Yeah. It's not often. So that's
not
cool.
Often. So, and this is kind of like a primer for it. It picks up threads from Infinite Frontier Zero, which, for the record, Connor last week thought it hadn't happened yet, and he started theorizing what was going to happen in Infinite Frontier Issue 0.
You should have just let him.
I let him go.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I let him go for a little bit, and I double checked just to make sure I wasn't going to sound stupid when I started making fun of him, and then I proceeded to mock him.
We clearly read it. I know we read
it. So this is kind of your big primer issue, which leads into another sort of big story, which is I Am Batman issue 0, which is actually the prelude to what presumably will be in the new John Ridley Travel Foreman next Batman book. Which will be more, obviously right now we're working through the digital first that's coming out physically, and this is kind of the next part. So, which in hindsight, I mean, it already felt important because I felt like it was in the current continuity anyway, but now that it's leading into something that's spinning out of this story event in Batman, just makes a lot of sense. And we'll get to the other ones later on, but Catwoman and I think Harley are the other two books in August that are kind of like doing some prelude stuff for Fear State, which is mainly just Batman's story in its book. Although that said, I expect other Gotham books to tie into it a little bit through those months, and given that we're getting an Alpha State, a Fear State Alpha, I imagine there'll be a Fear State Omega at the end of the event.
Kind of like how they do that.
Yeah,
as these end caps.
So
I think that's the way DC's gonna do things going forward, especially if they're kind of weekly.
What I like about this is that, unlike some other things where we hear, they're doing this crossover event, in 3 or 4 months' time, and it'll be something, and not that some of these ones are bad, like, when they announce, like, say, Endless Winter, it's like, okay, well, what's that? We have no context for what that is. I loved that as soon as they said they're doing Fear State, and I see that Scarecrow in the image, I'm like, we're already building to this. This is already something that's planned. Right. I feel like more excited for, because all these seeds and all this build is this feels like a big deal. It feels like it's justifiable that they're spending a lot of time advertising it and a lot of focus on it, because I already feel like we're building to this. There's already context, so it feels cool. So then you get I Am Batman issue 0, which I just mentioned, which presumably is going to lead to an issue 1, if not the following month, then maybe after the arc is done in a few months' time afterwards. But that is cool. So then there's a few trades here. We have the next Batman Second Son trade, obviously collecting the physicals that are coming out now. Hardware Season 1 Issue 1, so some of these milestone books, more of them kicking off. This is Brandon Thomas writing with Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz on the art. So this is issue 1 of 6. But I mean, again, they're calling this Season 1 Issue 1, so they're very intently naming this in a way where they can do a series of minis. Which is neat. Lock and Key Sandman Universe Hell and Gone issue 2.
That's wild.
Yeah, the order of this is a little bit on the weird side, but hey, Batman 89 issue 1 is coming out in August.
Look at that Billy D as Two-Face.
I know.
Image, that's fantastic.
Obviously, next up as well is Superman 78 issue 1, and I have to say, like, I'm kind of pumped to read both of these and talk about them, because even though Batman 89 is I'm not a huge I'm not a big guy. No, right. I'm still morbidly curious about the comic, and when I look at that Superman 78 cover and I see the Gene Hackman Lex, I'm like, yes, I want to read this.
Well, and then that's the thing, is like, that's clearly Gene Hackman as Lex, and then you look at, like, that's supposed to be Margot Kidder.
It's not as good, but it's close enough. Yeah, you can.
Like, it's Lois. She has purple eyes. Like, that's one of my favorite things, is when they nail the color of her eyes. And then the Brainiac shit behind him. And this is a great image.
Yeah, we're doing Reeve Superman taking on Brainiac. Like, how much do you wish that was what Superman 3 actually was? I mean, and I have a lot of soft spot for Superman 3 and all its stupidity, but
not like Talking Superman and Superman 4. Oh, he loves that movie.
That man is delusional.
So speaking of that, me and my wife were talking about Brandon Routh for whatever reason, and she goes, I don't think I've ever watched Superman Returns with you. And I went, oh no. I'm gonna have to watch this again. That said, I'll take that to the other later one. So
cool.
At least Superman acts like Superman in Superman Returns. And he's a little bit creepy.
I mean, all on the the peeping
Stalking.
Tom element. Yeah.
That. He actually saves people, goes out of his way to be compassionate. And but we had to talk. I forget what we were talking about. I think maybe she said that she hasn't seen him in anything in a while. And I was like, well, he's Ray Palmer on Legends. He's great.
Yeah.
What is this?
So that's cool. Then there is a new miniseries coming, a Black Label book. This is by Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, who I actually didn't know did comics. I actually only know her because occasionally I'll see retweets of some of her kind of raunchy comedy, I'll call it.
Yeah. I know this because her and Tim Seeley had a independent book that was called Money Shot, which is all you kind of need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, because most of the tweets that I see retweeted from her tend to be very erotic in their comedy.
Yes.
Not that I expected that's going. I mean, maybe Lobo will have some sex jokes or something in this.
I trust Tim Seeley enough with Superman.
Well, just to give the title, because I've been kind of dancing around it. Superman versus Lobo issue 1 is the book we're talking about here. This is a 3-issue book, so it's 3 double-sized issues. It's kind of one of the Black Label staples.
It's one of those big, oversized ones. kind of like Harleen was.
Yeah, Prestige Plus. So it's 348-page issues. Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty writing with Mirka and Dolfo on the art.
There's a shot right there. To the back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm obviously we're not the world's biggest Lobo fans, but I liked Tim Seeley well enough, and yeah, we'll give it a shot. See how it goes.
So it's basically King Kong versus Godzilla, where they're trying to fight each other to see, just based off of this.
Sure.
You know, they're pitting each other to see, you know, what wins, which is it's a good social, I guess you can say, experiment between Superman and Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Lobo's just one of those super 90 characters that I don't think I'll ever. And this is coming from someone who loves Guy Gardner, so you know.
Yeah. So, and much like Godzilla versus Kong, there is one that I want to win. There's one clear winner that should win, and that one will probably win, and that is Superman. Much like Godzilla.
He never tapped. It was Brock and Taker yelling at each other's faces, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, right. It was
all the talk I did about watching Kong versus Godzilla a million times on HBO Max. I only watched it in the theater, you know. So take that for what you will.
My return to the theater might be. I mean, it's not that imminent because the gap's wider here, but I do have my date now for my first vaccine shot.
Nice.
That said, the gap between shots here is bigger than what you had, so it'll probably still be a few months before I'm actually fully done.
Mine was a month between the two. So
I think it's like 3 or 4 months here that they're doing.
Oh shoot, man.
Well, the fact is that sounded really bad at first, but then there was reports coming out later that the effectiveness of the second one's actually up a little bit. Not by much, but it's actually a little bit stronger if you cover a gap.
It gives your body time, especially if they're the mRNA vaccines.
Yeah.
It gives your body more time to adapt to the vaccine and stuff. I think here they were just trying to roll them out, especially in Vegas, because we're so tourist driven.
I think the idea here is that they were so desperate to say they'd vaccinated everyone by just giving them their first shot that they were more concerned with doing first for everyone.
Yeah, well, and I'm coming up on June. I'm gonna have to find where to go get a booster because you're supposed to have to booster after that. From what I hear from friends that are in the medical profession.
I've heard we're probably going to need boosters every year for a while, if not forever.
Yeah.
So.
And that's fine by me. If they're free, like, I just got my first flu shot back in October at the age of 35. So if that's going to be normal going forward, then I'll go to the local pharmacy and they can jab me.
Sure.
But no, cool. Congrats on setting your first appointment. And,
It's just nice. I feel like everyone I talk to in every other goddamn country's already had a double dose by now.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here waiting for my first.
Yeah. That's why it would have been nice for the companies just to, give out the vaccine instructions to every country and let them develop their own, but money.
Yes, and the best news of all this is that Connor is terrified of needles. That is the best part of all of this.
He will take the blood clot risk to just get the one. Granted, that was 7 people out of over 1.5 million doses, which is you're more likely to get bit by a shark while being struck by lightning.
It was. Well, that's the thing. That the under 40s here are getting a different version because it's because the risk to people younger is actually higher for the blood clots with the particular one. Which again, it's still a minimal chance. It's a very, very minimal.
Of course, but you want to lower your edge as much as possible. But yeah, I thought about that with Connor because I used to be not as needle phobic as him, but after getting poked and jabbed a couple times, you kind of just don't look, and you trust that the person administering it knows what they're doing. Taking out now, having blood drawn, that's a whole different story. You get one shot, then you catch his hands. You miss, that's it. Oh boy!
All right.
What's next?
Batman Secret Files Clown Hunter issue 1. This is something they started. The Solicits or 2 ago. We're getting these like sort of monthly one shots for various Bat side characters. This is by Ed Brisson, writing with art by Rosie Campe. I'm not actually against getting some more Clown Hunter context. He's been solid enough in the book, but it's not by Tynion, which makes me a little less interested just inherently. But we'll see. So.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on Clown Hunter. I just I don't know. It's just one of those ones. I think it's gonna take a while.
Well, if you want to feel
We'll see.
conflicted, the next thing on this list is The Joker Presents a Puzzle Box Issue 1. And why will you be conflicted, you might ask? Well, because Matthew Rosenberg is the writer on this, with Jesus Marino and Joshua Hickson on the art. I'm going to read the description for this, because this sounds a little bit more weird to get your head around. It's story time. The GCPD discover a mysterious corpse, a magical box, and a murderer's row of the city's most dangerous villains sitting in a jail cell. Now, all they need to do is figure out exactly what happened. Fortunately, one suspect is willing to talk. Unfortunately, it's the Joker. Now, superstar writer Matthew Rosenberg, and magnificent artist Jesus Marino, and a multitude of rising star artists invite you to spend a night in the Gotham Central interrogation room for a dozen tales of murder, mayhem, and mystery as told by the Clown Prince of Crime himself. So this is an interrogation room mystery story.
Uh-huh.
Obviously centered around the Joker, which is the part that you might not like. But
here's the thing. It's almost an anthology style. It's Joker telling stories.
I assume Jesus Marino is doing the main art, but every time he tells a story, it'll go to a different artist.
Hickson, right? Or this one it's Hickson. That's kind of the Joker that I want, where it's not him constantly terrorizing Gotham. Because I don't mind a smaller story like this. Like in Gotham Central, you have the Jokers and Mad Men arc. That where Joker kind of was this threat that you never saw. And you felt his presence, but he wasn't on every page. And man, I don't know. I don't feel good giving my money to more Joker stuff, but I kind of like the vibe of this.
Hey, I'll give them this. If they're going to keep making more Joker things, they do find ways to actually have interesting premise based around it. Between the Lemire book, between Harleen, if you want to count that, even the Joker book right now. You said you don't like Joker on every page. Joker's he had one page in the first issue. Issue 2, he had maybe 3 pages. It's a Gordon book. It's a Jim Gordon book. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I would have went and got caught back up after that first issue had they not done their shenanigans. It's $1 more.
The price thing is whatever, but in terms of the content itself,
that's really the bar for entry is that extra $1 for a book.
For sure.
So I don't know.
Sorry, I'll tell you about
maybe when it comes out in trade.
Sure. That's the way to do it. This next thing, for reasons unknown to me, Pennyworth issue 1. They're doing a young Pennyworth spy series, obviously somewhat inspired by the TV show
Epics.
Which I think is moving to HBO Max for its next season because Epics are,
Yeah, well, it's
whatever.
Epics. I don't know too many series that Epics does. Epics used to be the place that would do Indiana Jones marathons every 3 days.
Honestly, either it's going to become a channel just to promote Amazon Prime content, or its days are numbered because now Amazon own MGM, which own Epics, which means do they have any interest in having a cable network?
You know what? They could just make it the James Bond channel. I'm sure enough people would watch. Sure. You know what I mean? There's enough catalog.
I was just talking on the news this week or last week about how Disney are basically slowly shutting all of their cable channels in the UK because they're no, we don't want to put Disney XD, Disney this, Disney that. No, we got Disney Plus. That's what we want people to go buy. We don't want these linear channels anymore.
Which makes sense. So we were big on DuckTales, and DuckTales was on XD, and it got to the point where it was constantly moving around. So even if I tried to DVR DuckTales, I would fall behind. So we just decided to wait, and now it's been added to Plus. And when we have time, we're gonna go through them. I kind of get it. I mean, cable went out during Game 6, and I was ready to go throw a brick through my cable company's office. So anything to kind of stick it to the man, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're Disney and you are the man, how do you stick it to the man? I don't know. It's a weird.
I mean, it makes sense. They make, there's no middleman with the cable provider making a hefty cut of whatever they're.
Right. Right. And that's where a lot of these news, I'm using quotes, channels get their money. Is they don't rely on ratings. They are getting money from the cable subscriptions. So that shows you how much the cable companies are making off of us. You can just go direct to the source now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have Peacock, Hulu, Paramount. I almost pay more for streaming than I do for TV. It's weird. And the only reason I still have cable is to watch hockey.
Yeah, sports are the one thing keeping live TV relevant, basically.
Yeah, and because I need to have my cable login to access, like, when I was out of town, trying to watch the Knights game when I was out of town, you know, if it was on NBC, I was fine because I have my cable login and it'll just, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got to make sure that I get the Knights channel still, the channel that plays on, and you know, my cable days might be numbered.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much too, man. Like, we were trying to find stuff to watch the other night, and you almost just get overwhelmed because you're like, oh yeah, we could watch this, or we could watch that, and it's almost too much.
Back to the solicits. By the way, David's going to have a lovely time editing the solicit section for the individual episode or the individual video.
Fun. Sorry, David.
Aquaman 80th anniversary special issue 1. This was in the news last week, along with the Bat event stuff. So we won't go into it again, but you know, it's your 100-page anthology, all the variant decade covers, all that usual shebang.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't see Kelly Sue's name on here.
That's a shame. I was excited to see Jeff Parker back.
Yeah.
Though
Parker's on there. I don't see Abnett, who, you know, over Rebirth.
Yeah, the newest pair basically. Yeah, the newest writers aren't involved seemingly.
But we have Jurgens and Johns, and you know, hard to be mad at those two names. Like you said, Parker, and then just the art. I mean, Doc Shaner doing an Aquaman story.
I feel like Dan Waters is just there because his name is Waters, and it was just too good of a pun to not pass up.
Boy.
So we do have a fifth week in August, so we do have some annuals to mention here. Batman Superman 2021 annual. Gene Luen Yang is writing, but I always like when it's the usual writer. It just makes me feel more comfortable about the whole thing. Oh, pardon me.
Nice.
Just had a Connor hiccup there.
Breakfast trying to come back up, or lunch.
Yeah. So this actually says it's the epic or epilogue to the Archive of War. So this is actually going to be a follow up to the current story arc, which we'll be talking about later today in the current issue. So it's going to be relevant to what we've been reading, which is always nice. So obviously that's out in the last Wednesday or Tuesday rather of the month. Then we have Green Lantern 2021 annual, which is by Ryan Cady and Sam Basri, and this is actually going to focus on Jessica Cruz, which delights me. I
don't like what she's wearing.
Nor do I. But to be fair, it does say in the solicit text that she's sort of given the offer, so it may not be she's wearing the yellow core outfit in the cover because she's definitely going to be taking that side. It's more just we're broaching that subject, so the cover is going to go well with it.
Yeah, and that's fine. But this is how much I care about that character. Is no. You overcame fear. You don't need to instill fear.
Yes.
Yeah. Man.
But there's been a lack of Jessica Cruz focus. I am happy that we're getting an annual at least to focus on her for a bit of time. I don't know why. I have no opinion on Ryan Cady as a writer, so we'll find out.
We'll see. As long as they can handle Jessica, we'll be good. Yeah.
So then we have Harley Quinn 2021 annual. Stephanie Phillips again, so it's the ongoing writer. David LaFiente on the art. So there you go.
Yeah. No. I just scrolled down and saw the Suicide Squad annual, and it makes me so mad.
Okay, well in that case, Suicide Squad 2021 annual. Robbie Thompson and Dexter Soy, and that does look like a couple of Superboys on the cover. You're not going to read this?
No.
No? Everyone questions how the teen calling himself Connor Kent came to be recruited into the Suicide Squad by Amanda Waller, but as Superboy sneaks into the bowels of a top-secret Task Force X black site, what he finds changes all he thinks he knows about himself and his history. And the cover, for anyone who's not seen this, has sort of current Connor Kent, which is kind of more the original Connor Kent Superboy with the lead jacket and all that, but also the 2000s t-shirt Connor Kent.
Yep.
So
my Connor Kent.
So it looks like he's going to find another clone of himself, seemingly, or something to that effect.
I hope not.
So that's that. And then we have the Midnighter 2021 annual, and obviously I'm not going to read this. I'm not interested because I've not been reading the backup.
Skipping. Yeah.
But I will say I do appreciate that one of the backup stories can have an annual. I kind of like that idea. That's kind of a neat idea. So I like the concept of it, even if I'm not interested in the book itself.
And it says it also leads into Superman and the Authority. So, there you go. It'll be a bridge.
So then there's a bunch of Suicide Squad trades because the movie's coming out and they're promoting some anthology style collections. They're also promoting some trades that are already out. This is the first time I think I've seen this where they've got just volume 1s of recent Suicide Squad runs which are already out and it just says available now. So they're just trying to promote in the solicits. Here's some Suicide Squad books you can buy.
Yeah.
So
and if you are listening to us, you already know how much we love Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's Suicide Squad. So if you haven't bought it, go do that. And
the only asterisk I'd put on that is that it's not really a Suicide Squad story in the traditional sense. It's very much its own thing. So just keep that in mind. Some graphic novels coming out: Batman and Robin and Howard. Some of these young adult stuff. This is Jeffrey Brown, both story and art. Then Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld. This is Shannon Hale and Dean Hale along with Isaiah Fillmore on the art. And then another edition of the Howard book. Actually, this is a Free Comic Book Day special edition flip book, so this is like a tease for both those books. So that's nice. And then we have Teen Titans Beast Boy Loves Raven Free Comic Book Day special edition.
This is the Cami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo combo. So they did Raven, then they did Beast Boy, now they're doing this. And I just love Piccolo's art.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
So this is obviously almost like a tease for the full book, I guess, to be tempted.
Says it features a chapter from the upcoming graphic novel.
Yeah. So think of it as a trailer, I guess. But then we have some maybe more of the more relevant stuff to us that we'll be covering when they come out, which is Batman Free Comic Book Day Special Edition, which has stories by both James Tynion and John Ridley. So again, this is going to be setting up both the main Batman book, but also the Jace book, which is cool. So that is a 32 page. So yeah, I mean, honestly, for a free, I mean, it's actually 25 cents, but for close to free, a full-size book with 2 stories in it, that's not bad. I can't complain about that. Suicide Squad Free Comic Book Day Special Edition by Tim Seeley and Brian Azzarello writing, with Scott Collins and Alex Maleev on the art, featuring a King Shark focused story.
I'm here for this.
Yeah, as much as I have no interest in the ongoing Suicide Squad book, I mean, those are some names to throw at me there.
I mean, yeah, and it looks like that image that we all saw of King Shark tearing some dude in half in the trailer. So, yeah. Sensational Suicide Squad Get Joker series by Azzarello and Maleev. So, it's going to tie more into that than the current run. So,
I mean, Azzarello and Maleev, a book by them is an interesting prospect. So, I'm kind of into checking out just for that. It's not like it's going to, again, it'll cost 25 cents. But, you know, let's face it, if all comics cost 25 cents, we would not be talking about the cost of them. It would just be taken for granted we'd get everything and read some of it. So then we're finally on to kind of the main solicit bulk, which is more alphabetical from this point on, I think. So Action Comics 1034, with that slightly new and updated Action Comics logo, pretty slick. So that is neat. Continuing Johnson's run. Then we have Batman 111. By Tynion and Jimenez. So this is the last issue before the Fear State story properly kicks in. So also neat. Still Jimenez on the art. Batman Reptilian issue 3. This is the Black Label book by Liam Sharp and Garth Ennis, which we're looking forward to. I really like that cover, actually. The Joker cover. It's very horror.
It's grotesque.
Yeah, I'm into it. And then Batman The Adventures continues, season 2, issue 3, so continuing the animated continuation stories.
That cover is beautiful.
You got Batgirl on the bike,
Huntress.
Huntress up on the top, it's good stuff. Batman Urban Legends issue 6, of course. So this is interesting actually, because one of the stories at least should have finished here. So yeah, I think the Grifter one will finish. So let's just have a quick look at this.
Grifter, yeah, because we got a Red Hood, we have a Tim Drake, we have a Black Canary, and we have a Zealot, which looks like we're doing more Wildstorm stuff here. So it looks like Gotham has become ground zero for
Wildstorm's
infiltration of the DC universe, which makes sense.
Or
you
at
know?
least just that last slot, because it was Grifter before, and now it's shifted to Zealot.
Well, that's okay. And you have the Halo Corporation, which are my limited knowledge of Wildcats. That's, one of the big pieces that goes in there, So, but yeah, why not? It doesn't hurt anything else. It's not like they're infusing, Grifter into Metropolis. So they can have their little corner of Gotham.
Yeah, so yeah. There you go. Urban Legends, which has been really solid. So, Batman Catwoman issue 7. Not much to say. It's back after that 1 month break. Although, obviously, there's going to be a sad tinge to it because Jean Paul Leon passed away. But as far as we know, it's still his art in that one shot that's coming between 6 and 7. But yeah, issue 7 is back on schedule.
The bridge issue.
Yeah. Batman Superman 21. Curious to see what that book's going to be doing after the archive. In fact, this is the final issue of that, actually. So we're getting the final chapter of that story, and then the epilogue and the annual a week later. So those are going to be back to back. So
yeah,
neat. Blue and Gold issue 2. That's obviously pumped over
buddy.
there. Yeah, 2 of 8. That's a very pretty cover, actually. You got Booster on is that a tablet or a comic book cover, whatever it is? But
I
mean, obviously as a comic book cover, but I mean, like on the cover, there's like on a magazine cover or something. Yeah,
with Ted, and that's a soot cover. Yeah, it's a soot cover.
Yeah. Catwoman issue 34. Continuing on. I mean, nothing to say except that it's been freaking excellent. So keep rolling with it. Challenge of the Super Sons issue 5 is out. So cool. Checkmate issue 3. Obviously very intrigued by that. Again, issue 3 is always that weird number in the Solicits because we haven't got the book yet. We're close to issue 1, but we haven't quite had it yet. Crime Syndicate issue 6 is out in August. Crushing Lobo issue 3. Then we have DC Horror presents The Conjuring the Lover issue 3. That's about to start as well. In fact, next week I think that starts.
I think that's when the movie comes out because I got excited and thought it was coming out this weekend. So I tried to make plans to see it sometime, and no, it comes out, and I think we're just gonna watch it at home on HBO.
Yeah,
which will be a first.
It's on Max, so
Yeah, but I mean, scary movies in the theater are always more fun.
Yeah. I'll be checking out the first issue next week. I want to see what it's like. I want to,
of course,
see what.
I mean, you're a much bigger horror guy than I am, but I feel like now I can say I'm a horror fan. That I kind of feel like I have to, like as a fan of the Conjuring universe. Not that all the movies are good, but I do love that.
I would say the majority aren't good at this point.
But they're some of them, like the Annabelle. Like Annabelle Comes Home, not traditionally a good movie, but it was fun. Just the whole concept of
that was Annabelle Comes Home was by far the best spin-off movie, but every other spin-off movie was bad.
Yes, The Nun's not terrible, but it's not good.
Terrible.
That was not terrible. James incepted me by telling me it was a superhero movie, and as I was watching it, I went, "Oh, damn, he's right."
It does take us some bizarre twists as it goes on, which I did not expect, but
no, and it really goes out of its way to jumble the story to make it fit into continuity. So but however, I'm here for that in comic books because if it's just a comic book, it's fine.
Then we have Detective Comics 1041 and 42. So, starting, I think, next month, Detective, Wonder Woman, and Justice League are double shipping. And that seems to still be the case in August. So, I'm not reading Wonder Woman, but I mean, I'm happy enough for the all two to be double shipping. So, it is worth mentioning that we do have an artist change on issue 1042. But I'm not going to be mad to see Bogdanovich there.
No.
As much as I love Mora, like if we're going to have to swap out artists, then Bogdanovich is not a bad name to be swapping with.
No.
So that is cool. Also, backup story by Matthew Rosenberg, because obviously right now Tamaki's doing the backup herself, but we're switching to a Rosenberg story. So.
And here it looks like it's Jason Todd. So we like Zdarsky. We like Rosenberg enough that maybe he can do Jason Todd.
Well, he's been making Grifter entertaining, so I mean, why not?
Exactly.
Future State Gotham. Sorry.
I was say they're looking for the missing body of Bane, which is something I never thought I would say.
Oh yeah, it's neat.
It's fantastic.
Well, actually, some of Joker's playing into that because there's like people in Santa Prisca all wearing Bane masks who want to hunt down Joker because they're blaming him for the death of Bane.
God, now I'm gonna have to get caught up, and now I have to justify the extra $1. So give me time, because I do love Bane. Like,
yeah.
Bane's just always been one of these characters that I do like.
Don't get too caught up because I'm a month behind and I have to keep a month behind. So just get caught up to where I am and we can talk about it.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
Take this cover.
Pardon me. Future State Gotham issue 4, which is this still black and white? Doesn't say.
I would hope not with that cover. That cover, you got some, cyberpunky.
It's super colorful, neon. That cover.
Oh man. Oh, it was got Punchline. Oh, get out of here.
I don't hate Punchline.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to thumb through this.
Did we even get Future State, like a Punchline version in Future State? I think we did. No? I don't remember a Punchline in Future State. People can correct in the comments if I'm wrong, because it does happen. Green Lantern issue 5 coming out. I am looking forward to you being here for the next issue because I was very into issue 2.
Yep, I remember you saying that. And, yep.
So, Harley Quinn issue 6. Connor can look forward to that in his future.
Oh man, they have Rosmo, dude.
I know. Although it's Laura Braga on the main art now.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
All of that? Well, I did not realize that. I was just looking at the cover.
Yeah. If you look at the
read me some Stephanie Phillips, maybe? I don't know. I'm not overcommitting to anything.
There's also a Suicide Squad variant as well. Keep clicking along. Icon and Rocket, Season 1, Issue 2. So we got one of the Maelstone books, which has already started. So, cool. Which, I mean, I'm tentatively planning on at least checking out the Issue 1s of those and seeing if they grab me. I don't really have any familiarity with most of the characters to have any like direct attachment, but I'm hoping some of them do. Yeah. Infinite Frontier issue 4 and 5. Though I mean those are double shipping as well, but that's it's an event style thing. I've said before that I think events should run quicker because if at the point where they're lasting like 8 or 9 months, they don't really feel like an event anymore. They just feel like there's something that's lingering the whole year. Yeah. So
unless you're halting everything. So I felt like when they did Infinite Crisis back in 05, 06, that there's all these minis that were spinning out of it. Like you had OMAC Project and Day of Judgment and all of this stuff. So it went in together, and it only lasted 7 months though. From start to finish.
Which isn't too bad, but it's still there's a point where it starts to feel like the status quo rather than an event. And I think doing weekly or double shipping and getting it done in a few months just makes it feel like a bit more of a quick special thing rather than a whatever. So issue 4 and 5 out in August, which means that it should be finishing then in September. So we'll look forward to that. So that's cool. Justice League 66 and 67.
Very cool color variants.
Yeah, they're very interesting.
Colors.
Yeah, the main covers here are like just simple color schemes, which I suspect are going to play into the story as we go in. But yeah, those variants are pretty nice too. Actually, those painted looking ones. Who's the variant artist? This is Alexander Lozano. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, that's Batman doing like a tiger knee. And is this supposed to be Nubia or no, Hippolyta? So, yeah, I like the 67 one. That one looks nice.
Oh, that's neat. Justice League Infinity issue 2. This is the JM Demetes and James Tucker mini that's coming out. Which I have to admit, my track record with Demetes, because it's not been that long since I read Emperor Joker.
Oh, okay.
And Demetes' chapters in that were particularly bad, so I don't know if I'm super excited, but we'll see. Justice League Last Ride issue 4 is out in August, so that's cool. Legend of the Dark Knight issue 4 physical is out, cool. Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom issue 4. We'll be talking about issue 1 later today. So
that cover is fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Actually, it's black and white, but except Miracle himself.
But yeah, it's like he's in Throwback Metropolis.
Yeah,
like it looks everything's very Art Deco and old black and white, and then him and what's his name? The little guy from the New Gods.
I avoided saying it because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, him and Shiloh Norman are in full color. So
yeah, Nightwing 83. I mean, what is to say except DC's best book.
Redondo is killing it on these motion covers.
Yeah, I would say some people might say gimmicky covers. I would say they're very conceptually interesting covers. But we have Robin issue 5, which does feature a lot of Bat Family guest starring. Stephanie Brown's on there. Nightwing.
I can't wait to talk about that book today.
Yeah, we get things going on in this cover. I'm Rumble of the Robins at the bottom of that. I like that title as well.
Yeah.
Damn, good Robin book. It's just something else. Rorschach 11. So nearing the end of that, come August. Ruby Justice League issue 5. Scooby Doo, Where Are You? 111. Sensational Wonder Woman issue 6, which is a collection of the digital chapters. Shazam issue 2, the miniseries, which unfortunately, it's tying into Teen Titans Academy and all that stuff.
From the page of Teen Titans Academy means skip.
Unfortunately, that is true. Static season 1 issue 3. So this will be the first one that comes with these Milestone books. So cool. Suicide Squad issue 6. There's a bit of unfortunate news with that I'll get to in a couple of books time. Suicide Squad Get Joker issue 2. This is Azzarello and Malieve's book, which I guess already starts in July, and I just forgot about it because we were talking about it earlier in that Free Comic Day thing. It didn't even occur to me that we already knew about this.
Yes. Ooh, and it's got a Fornes Black Label or a cardstock cover.
Ooh. Which is actually a very nice cover. Both covers are very nice for this. So this is one of these things where it's a Black Label prestige book. I'm into seeing what it's like. I can't resist the Malieve temptation.
Azzarello and Malieve though, just alone.
I know.
I don't care what that book is. I have to check out at least the first issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm on board.
It could be 48 pages just Joker, and I probably wouldn't complain because it's Malieve art.
Here's the thing. They started off kind of slow in April with the Infinite Frontier books, but goddamn, the quality's been so consistent. I mean, obviously there's a few things will drop, but the quality's so high right now on a across the board way that I can't deny trying all these books. And obviously Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, issue 3 is coming out. Cool. Superman The Authority issue 2, continuing the Grant Morrison book, which again I kind of forgot was a thing until it was mentioned earlier. So many books coming out. Oh, issue 3 is also solicited. When's that coming out?
So that's looking like a 817, and so it looks like it's double shipping.
Oh, that's interesting.
8-3 and 817. Yeah.
That is a weird one to be double shipping. It's a Grant Morrison miniseries.
Well, and it's only 4 issues, so maybe they're just trying to plug it out.
I guess it'll be over quickly. Yeah. I wonder if there's anything coming after it that they're building to, and that's why they're getting it out quickly. Curious. Superman Red and Blue issue 6. Superman
that cover.
Red and Blue.
I need that cover by itself. Yeah.
Oh sure. I can see why. Superman Son of Kal-El issue 2. So this is the ongoing Superman book now, by Tom Taylor, might I add. So looking forward to that. I do kind of love on the cover the city under the Superman logo element. It's kind of nice.
It's nice.
Teen Titans Academy issue 6. Not what to say for us on that one. The Batman Scooby Doo Mysteries issue 5. I love that it exists. I'll say that. The Flash 773, which Cora did officially drop.
Did he?
Last issue. I still had fun with the last. I had a lot of fun with Jay punching Hitler and whatever else was happening.
All right, what issue was that? I need to read that.
770, I guess that would have been.
You punch Nazis. You have a friend in me.
I'm having fun. I'm having fun with Wally jumping around the speechless different time frame, and where he jumped to at the end of this issue, which I won't spoil, was also a fun place for me to jump. So,
damn it! All right, I'll have to get caught back up.
I mean, it's rough around the edges. It's not a perfect book by any means, but I think Wally's voice, I think, is getting stronger. As the book goes. So we'll see. Anyway, Joker issue 6 is out in August. Nice House in the Lake issue 3. So looking for issue 1 of that's next week. I am very much looking forward.
Oh, is it?
I think it's next week. Yeah.
Oh shoot! I have to make sure I have.
Oh wait,
it.
no,
Okay,
I'm probably mixing up with The Conjuring, but it's next month. It's
Yeah,
it's
okay.
next it's next
Okay.
month.
I'll have to make sure I have it on my list because it's Tynan and
Yeah.
I'll have to have it.
Looks fantastic. Swamp Thing issue 6 is out. Now there is a little bit of negative news here, is that it's kind of crossing over with Suicide Squad. Stupid Suicide Squad can't keep its mitts off of.
Here's the thing: if you want to use Suicide Squad as a plot device to come in and rein in your big hulking plant monster,
Sure.
cool. But don't make me read an issue of Suicide Squad to do that.
Oh, I'm not doing it. I'll read Swamp Thing, and hopefully it works on its
Yes.
own. And if it doesn't, then I'll just complain that Suicide
So yeah, I
Squad
don't think
ruined my
there's going
book.
to be a crossover because the way that Ram V's talked about this is that it was a season 1, and I don't think that if you're doing a season 1, having a crossover helps. So him just having the Suicide Squad in here.
I read the article on Newsarama was Suicide Squad and Swamp Thing are crossing over in August, and said it starts in Suicide Squad. Blah blah blah. I'm hoping they're overstating it, and it's just, you know, Suicide Squad show up. It's amazing how many books recently I feel like, oh, why are Suicide Squad showing up? They keep showing up to interfere in books.
It's as if they have a movie coming out in August.
True. Truth and Justice issue 7 is out. Wonder Girl issue 4, which is obviously after issue 1, very excited for more of that.
There's her winged steed, who I can't remember his name.
I can't remember the name either.
But he was great.
It was some sort of simple name as well. But cool stuff. Wonder Woman 777 and 778 are coming out. And then we have Wonder Woman Black and Gold issue 3. And that seems to wrap up the issues. We got collections after that. You know, Basket Full of Heads, getting a paperback. I assume it's already had a hardcover by this point.
Curse of the White Knight, I'll have to send my brother. Because I bought him the first one.
So yeah, but some reprints, some, you know, obviously just new volumes of things that are ongoing.
Batwoman Omni. See, that's 888 pages. You drop that, you're breaking your foot.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird collection actually, because it's the Ruckus stuff and then the New 52 stuff, but not the Rebirth stuff.
It's almost like they want to ignore the Rebirth stuff, which I kind of enjoyed. At least for the most part. I
like the Rebirth stuff more than the New 52 stuff that I read.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rucka's, you know, issues on Detective are by far the best, and you know, there's no question of that. And they already did a deluxe of just that, and I'd recommend that honestly over the Omni. But you know,
yeah. So it looks like all of the Hill House books are coming out in October in trades, which is good. That makes sense. Because I'm gonna have to buy Plunge, Dollhouse Family, and Basket Full of Heads.
Yeah,
just to have on the shelf, because those 3 I really loved.
Yeah, and we have Birds of Prey Fighters by Trade, which is funny because it's, you know, trade paperback. But this is actually the second big thick volume in Gail Simone's run of her time on the book. So
yeah, I like these. I might have to go pick up the first, because I haven't read Birds of Prey, so I might have to go and start this. That's how I read Checkmate too. So
I mean, I'd recommend go back to reading Dixon's run as well.
Yeah.
Which is the start of it, and it's just good. Like, yeah, it's super enjoyable. Especially since in the early days it's just Oracle and Canary, but that's all it is at the start.
They're the two. And this is a cover by Adriano Mello, who, you know, we all enjoy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, more reprints. You know, trades of stuff that already got hardcovers. The next Superman Man of Steel hardcover, which they're, you know, doing again, and these bigger, not quite omnibuses. I think because of the amount of they have to do, they're doing 500-page hardcovers, so they're obviously at least twice as thick as the old paperbacks. But you know, so that's.
I like these slip cases too that they're doing. The box sets. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's just Superman the Man of Steel Volume 4, but it's
okay.
That may be the last one, because it was 9 trades, if I remember right. So this might actually be the last hardcover. They may have split it into 4.
Right.
Gotcha.
That
makes sense.
I looked ahead, and they're doing these cool box sets of trades that go together. You know, they have the Swamp Thing one, which is all Alan Moore. Then they have the Hill House. So if you want all the Hill House in trade paperback, you can get them all for $100. So
that's not, cool. Especially since, you know, I mean, not to throw comic shops under the bus here, but, you know, Amazon might have that for like 70. You know,
maybe, you know, but yeah,
that's not bad. Cool. That's not bad. All right, there you go. That's August Solicits. We made it through in one piece. Which, and to be fair, even with the tangents, we actually ended around the same time we normally do when we finish Solicits, so I'm okay with that. It evened out in the end. All right, let's have the comics though. Detective Comics 1036, Mariko Tamaki, writing with Dan Mora on the art. And obviously I had the big cliffhanger last. I'm going to give Detective credit here, because sometimes it takes me a couple of pages to remember what happened in the last issues, because, month between issues, it's just the way I am with comic books.
Yeah.
But credit where credit's due, I remembered quite vividly how the last one ended, because it was so kind of like, whoa, out of nowhere, the dead woman seems to be back, to life. And I think I actually liked the sort of the double swerve back on the start of this issue when it turned out to be a Clay person, Lady Clayface specifically, as we go on throughout the issue. But I kind of like that swerve. So no, we're not dealing with people coming back to life. She is dead. She is still genuinely dead. But
yeah,
I think I kind of like that swerve. So, and plus Huntress comes into the main story as well.
I like this, and the fact that Tamaki is telling the Huntress story, and then it leads to her showing up here, and then we get more background on the story in the backup. I do like how that weaves together.
That's nice. It's nice, especially since because in the backup you were thinking, oh, it's just this asshole, boyfriend who's murdered his girlfriend, but it turns out not to be the case. Which I almost like, because if I had any complaints about the backup last time, which was very good otherwise, is that maybe it was a bit on the nose that he immediately killed her like right after the setup. It was maybe a bit quick in that sense. So it turned out not to actually be the boyfriend, and it's actually tied to the thing going on in Greater Gotham.
Yeah, it's tied to the and she's still that dude's still a dirtbag.
Oh, he's still awful, yeah.
Yeah, but Huntress has to be like, I can't punish him just for being can't punish him for not murdering her, but just being an all around douche. So I did like that show. Well, we'll get there. So
yeah. So I dig that Lydia, the neighbor, like sort of sees the zombie looking Sarah, and Bruce quickly gets her into the apartment, and she calls the police on him because she thinks that something fishy is going on. But very quickly, as soon as they're in the apartment, like he's got her in his hands, and she starts melting into clay, and it's like, wait, Clayface? No, we've not seen Clayface in ages. Not since the Gotham Knights disbanded.
Yeah.
And so all this was just fun stuff, and Hayden, he assumes it's Lady Clayface right now. It's confirmed later on. But
I love the screaming. He excuses the police that he was watching a horror movie, and he had it turned all the way up. I just always love that stupid. Like you hear that in movies all the time. It's like, oh no, there's no screaming. I was just listening to TV real loud. I love that Batman's bold enough to try that. Oh, Bruce. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. With how loud I like my movies playing, some of the neighbors might think there's a abducted people.
Well, let me just tell you, my neighbors know how much I hate certain members of the Minnesota Wild. So, yeah. Yeah.
But we have Penguin henchmen out looking around, and this eventually ties into stuff because they run into who is it they're looking for exactly again? They're looking for someone who's went off book. But this guy jumps out of the alley with a knife. He's very deranged, and we don't really get the context yet. But it's all building to like what's really going on here, which is So Neil's also an asshole, but as we find out throughout this issue, there's something infecting people and making them psychotic. This is not just him. He's not just a serial killer naturally. There's something else going on here. So, being a good detective book, and the idea that we keep adding layers to the mystery with each issue is a really nice touch, I think. Huntress does show up on the rooftop with Batman, wants answers. I love that Lady Clayface just sort of like falls off the roof like in clay form, and they have to jump down and like find her again. It's good stuff. Art's really fun here. Mora's going nuts with the
Mora does monsters. So I read Once in Future. He does monsters so well, but then you also see how well he does just regular people, and it's like that's a balance that as a comic artist, it's good to have.
I think my favorite part
know?
of it is after they sort of fight Lady Clayface a little bit, and it's raining as well. She kind of forms a more human-looking figure, and I mean, I think it's actually still Sarah again, but she looks up at them, and there's kind of this sadness, and she's been kind of messed up because she was in Arkham when the AD attack happened, and the gas has done something to her, physically, but she can't quite control herself anymore, and obviously the question is why is she appearing as Sarah, this murder victim? And Batman immediately assumes, I think she saw something, and she's not been able to turn into anything else since then because of the trauma of what she saw. So when that panel when she's looking up at them in the rain, I think is really effective. Is just you get this idea of like she's witnessed something really awful.
It's that part in like in a detective or a hard-boiled cop thing where they find the one witness, but the witness is super violent because whatever they saw has broken their brain, so they just start attacking. When they finally get them calmed down, they're like a huddled animal in the corner, and they're just that's what this is like. The way that Batman's looking down at Lady Clayface, she's a wounded animal almost. And then she tells him that she just heard, whatever she saw, she kept, someone said Neil, but she says it like, not like the name, but like the action,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, he makes going Matt. What I liked about that is obviously you can't really tell the difference when someone says Neil the name versus Neil as in the to Neil.
Right.
But by having it spelt like that when she says it, and then having Huntress think that's what she meant, like I loved it. As soon as she said Neil with the K, I was kind of like, oh no, she was saying the name Neil. I like that it let us kind of like get the mistake. Well,
and that's a thing that you can do in movies, but you have to do different in comics, right?
Yeah.
So here, because we're having to have the whatever we're readings in our head versus being projected, they have to play around. But no, this is a mission. I have zero idea what's going on, and I like it. Besides the fact it seems like there's some kind of fungus that's making people nuts.
Yeah, they've got stuff attacking. They've got stuff in their eyes, basically. So it's kind of like a bizarre, almost like the crazies, or like there's a zombie infection, but not zombies per se. More.
Right. And I like that Tamaki's playing with that because the way that the last issue ended, it looked like it was zombies, right? Like she's really playing with these kind of horror tropes in a detective story.
That's true. I never thought about it that way. You're right. She kind of teased traditional zombies at the end of last issue, and it turns out that wasn't a zombie. But now we're dealing with something that's akin to a zombie. Right.
It's the 28 days later, rage virus.
Yeah.
Deal.
And Sarah's father, the crime boss, is still, buying tables at the mayor's office and stuff. I love how big he's drawn. He's so hulking and whatever, but
he's Kingpin.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
The way that what I love too is how it's formatted in the beginning. It's the story written by the journalist that lives in their neighborhood,
the one who hates Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. and you read like the backstory that happened at the funeral, that like Nakano spoke and no one kind of was listening, that it all seemed like formalities, but when he talked, everyone had the respect because yes, he's a businessman for construction in Gotham, which has made him very rich because when you think about what happens in Gotham. But he also has ties to the underworld, which makes him scary. And I was like, oh, this is just Kingpin, right? Like,
I think I also like
the flair of Gotham
about that. It's obviously Bendis has just been doing recap pages, but I kind of like that newspaper article actually functioned as a recap page as well.
Yeah,
because it told you the story of like, oh, so and so got murdered. This is when it happened. Their father's a crime boss. Like, it really reminded you of a lot of the key details. And one of the things that we've been saying over the last month, last 2 months, 3 months even, is how connected and how it feels like they're building a supporting cast in these books, which is something that was missing for so long. And I love that, we have just this one quick scene with the father, just to reestablish and just keep that inner minds, inner thoughts, and keep all these threads ongoing. And then, we go to Penguin, and they've grabbed the guy who was crazy and tried to kill them. And this is, where we get a close-up of the eyes, just, again, so this is building up the reasons why Neil might have done what he did. And then we get to this great transition actually. So they find Neil on a rooftop because obviously once Batman figures out it's the name Neil, he doesn't take a long time to put together
find him.
who lives in the street who's named Neil. And they find him on a rooftop. It's in the rain just for the atmosphere, the lightning in the background. Neil's hands are covered in blood. His eyes have got all the red squigglies just like the other guy did. And he lies there and basically dies in front of them. And, they sort of, we should probably keep our distance until we know what's going on. But, Batman looks down in the rain and says, he's got blood in his hands, but it's not his. And that leads into the transition of the journalist, going down the street and finding Lydia. To obviously, there was a tease earlier on where Neil sort of like walked up to her. So this is a payoff as well. But the transition of Batman saying that's not, his blood. Yeah. So then
it also anytime something like that happens, it reminds me of John's Justice League of America with Hawkman, where they go, he's like, you're covered in blood. It's not my blood. Just one of those for humor. This though, him being covered in blood that's not his makes it even more ghastly.
Oh yeah, it's just more ominous. And a little detail here, the first panel of this last page is if you look at the gutter in the street, you can see there's red in it. There's blood flowing down the drains. Really nice touch. So no. And again, it's this finally some of the horrific side of Gotham is invading the wealthy elite neighborhood kind of thing. It's the blood's flowing in the streets literally. So really strong stuff. The art throughout's really good. It's building the characters, it's building the mystery. Huntress investigating this because of the death of the friend, which takes us into the backup quite nicely. But I guess before we do that, what you rating the
I'm giving this 8.5. Just so we talked about like with the horror elements mixed with the detective elements, and then the fact that Mora is able to draw both and keep the action moving. Like, it is living up to its name, Detective Comics. Like each piece is coming up, and it's Tamaki and Mora working hand in hand.
Yeah, I don't know if they specified why Lady Clayface like sort of was drawn to where she was at the end of last issue.
Well, remember she was escaping Arkham. She was doing time in Arkham, and then the explosion happened.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, not like why she was in the sewers, but I mean, why was she drawn specifically? Like, was she looking for Bruce because she knew that she had information for Batman that would be important? Was she drawn to where Sarah lived because it's the same street?
Yeah,
I don't know if they specified, but either way, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't think they maybe clarified that point, or if they did.
No, maybe not. I am, but yeah, we can go. I'm just reskimming this.
Yeah. I will also give an 8.5. I think it's very, very good stuff. So the backup is just continuing the Huntress story where she is convinced it's the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, who killed Mary, and she tracks him down, talks about how it's easy to find him in social media, how he's using her credit card still, all the rest of it. What she does actually get him, at the end, it tacks on that she's making sure Oracle's like making sure he's arrested for fraud and whatever. But so she basically scares the shit out of him. But he's got an alibi. He was on a plane. Is the gist of it. So I mean that's basically the story in a nutshell. Art's not bad, but it does still have that head thing that I don't like.
Yeah,
about
it's a Clayton Henry, although it's toned down here because the angles. I feel like he's the type that when it's drawn straight on, you really notice it. But here from the different angles, it's fine. But I do love that he draws a gun on Huntress, and she's just kind of like, "What are you doing?" Like, I just love that Tamaki has her vibe down because for a long time, like with Huntress, she's kind of like she doesn't really have like she has a character, but it's kind of all over the place, and it's just the different writers having different handles on her. So I like that here, Tamaki has the this version that I prefer of her, that she's no nonsense, like even more no nonsense than Batman, right? Like, and it just makes her stand out from the rest of the Bat family.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I don't have a super amount to say on it. It's fairly straightforward in what it does, but And if anything, maybe it's hurt a little bit because you know from her involvement in the main story that it's not going to be the boyfriend, that the boyfriend's a dead end. So maybe that hurts it a touch in terms of just like the progression of the story.
See, so when I started, I was like, okay, well, what did she find that led her to go to Batman? Since we know it's not the boyfriend. That's where I was at with it, you know. So.
Yeah. But I like that she's looking after the cat at the end. That's cute.
Yeah, of course you are.
It's adorables. Nothing wrong with that. I say as there's 3 cats on my bed snoozing.
I have one. I opened my window because it's kind of nice here today. You know, it's only 90 degrees, but it's nice and cloudy. But I have the window open, and she's sunbathing over here. So
yeah, that sounds about right. What are you giving the backup?
I'm gonna give the backup a 7.5. Like it's decent.
Yeah, it's just a straight 7 for me. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing particularly exciting. I mean, I like this. It exists. I like that it's giving us some more insight into Huntress and whatever. But it feels kind of like just a obligatory next part versus the first part, which was because the first part was all the stuff of her making the friend. There was a lot more of an emotional story there, and because we know the end result from the main story, this one just felt a bit more like okay, it's natural follow up, but there's nothing particularly exciting or super surprising about it. So there you go. That's Detective Comics. Action Comics 1031. Philip K. Johnson writing with Daniel Sempere on the art. So if you remember last issue, the Kryptonian, because me and Matt, this is so funny. Me and Matt spent ages talking about why this ship was there. Was it them taking? Was it prisoners taking over the ship and they just happened to be next to Earth? Whatever. This issue, of course, went out of its way to kind of explain this, and it was kind of a double step thing because on the one hand, yes, there was kind of an uprising on the ship. Although the prisoners seem to like their chains a lot and don't want their chains to be taken away.
Those ones, right? The War Zunes. But that's not who the Kryptonians that were breaking out were. So it seemed like there's some. We'll get to that towards the end. There's something strange afoot going on with who we think are the Kryptonian refugees.
Okay, but the Kryptonian, the woman with the Kryptonian who spoke Kryptonian last issue definitely still wants her chains this issue. So. That was still a thing in this issue.
Let me see.
Let me see. We'll get to it. But the other point I was going to make is that later on, we do actually have a confirmation that while they might have staged something like that, Mongol's intention was to have all this go to Earth. That this was all a ploy to lure Superman into something. So there is a trap element to this to set things in motion. So Mongol is intentionally doing this, but it's a bit more of a ruse than... Perhaps.
So I got so wrapped up in reading the story and not looking at the art, I did not realize she put her chains back on.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay, now this adds a whole different meaning now.
Yep.
Oh boy. All right.
How glorious is that first page with the blinding light behind Superman and him floating there?
The whole art in this book, I just feel like Sempere's at a different level here.
Yeah.
But yes, that is fantastic because if you want to do messianic imagery, this is how you do it. Superman's in a very I'm here to help posture, not a worship me posture. It can be done.
Yeah, just shout out to an article this week, which was I think it was IGN put out all of the projects that Warner Brothers wouldn't let Zack Snyder make, and there was a list of like 8 different things, and all I could think after I read the 8 of them was like, thank you, Warner. You've made a lot of mistakes, but thank you in this case.
I used to give that man the benefit of the doubt for a lot of stuff, right? Tragedy, and he's just not my kind of storyteller. However, his actions right now are making him seem like an ultimate douche. That is like, give me what I want or I'm going to sick my army after you. And I don't like that. Like, that's not how you get stuff done. And like, I was going to watch his new movie on Netflix. Then I saw the runtime. And I go, just not for me.
Wait, how long is it?
It's 2 hours and 32 minutes.
What?
Yes.
It's a zombie movie.
I love Dave Bautista. I will watch him in most things. I did not watch this because I'll tell you, the creator and the runtime. So
madness, absolute madness. All right, back to Action Comics though. I had to throw it in the dig there because I thought it was funny.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
So Yeah, the first batch of the issue, of course, is as the action of them saving the prisoners on the ship. John trying to hold the ship together. We find out later the ship was basically like all different tech from different cultures, all just kind of stuck together. As a glorious full page spread of the ship crashing into the ocean.
Oof, so good.
Yeah, very very pretty stuff. As John and Superman are flying away with the survivors.
I do like how John, who has seen, worst parts of this galaxy, right? From his trip around with Grandpa Jor-El. He's not as trusting as Clark and Kara are in this. And even with him talking to his dad, at this save, he goes, "Are you okay?" You see him kind of shaken up. And it's because of this other stuff, but just the fact that he's not as trusting as those two. I do like that split in the Super family.
That said, though, he's still a little bit too far. He's he gets a little not aggressive, but enough that Kara and Lois are like, that's not like John. Yeah, he's acting a little different, So they're trying to figure things out. They mention that the Kryptonian language isn't like it wasn't like the present day Kryptonian language. It's an ancient language that no one uses anymore.
Almost like someone speaking Latin.
Yeah.
Like they're and especially what they're saying, because it's not. It is a prayer, but it's almost like a prayer to a scientist, not a deity. So they're like, it'd be like, help me, Galileo, which it made me think of Queen, and I kind of had a chuckle, because the song. Anyways,
praise be Freddie Mercury.
Exactly.
Praise be. And then Superman goes down into the water. The Atlanteans, so there's a little bit of a Aquaman presence here, where they've claimed the ship and the power source in particular, the stone that's powering the whole thing. This mysterious power source is so powerful that the Atlanteans won't let Superman take it away for analysis because they want to keep it, and it could potentially power Atlantis for ever.
Yeah, because it's source energy. So here we're getting back to like some, the no justice aspect of the source wall, but not in the same way. Like, this isn't the totality kind of vibe, but this is like an old technology. So I'm starting to wonder where this is headed with Johnson. With the whole thing of Mongol and how long this Warworld Empire has been around, right?
Yeah, and they have prisoners from the ship as well, of course. The Mongols army or whatever.
So this big guy who looks like Goro, right, from two-armed Goro from Mortal Kombat, almost looks like a Mongol. Speaking in a different language, and that's where we find out that they don't want their chains off.
Superman.
Yeah, I like that too. But yeah, Volko's like, I think the big one wants to fight you, which is just they'll be disappointed because I want to speak to him. And again, there's Superman acting like Superman, He's like, no, I'm not. I don't care how much he wants to fight me. We're not fighting. But he goes in there into the prison and just like, it's such a weird warrior culture in here, right? Just like the art here.
The way he sticks his tongue out and then headbutts Superman when Superman tries to take his chains off. To the point where like it leaves him with a big like hole / gash in his head, and he's just smiling like a maniac,
right?
With this wound. It's so weird.
It's this culture that breeds violence, and that's all they know, right?
Yeah.
And and so that's what he just busted his head open, headbutting Superman, and he's wearing it like a point of pride. It's like, what is going on in Warworld?
And then Lois Lane decides she wants to cosplay as Cyclops, and is they're in the library, the Kandor library, and they're looking through. This is where John acts a little bit out of character, and they kind of like question, like he thinks there's something fishy, and he's kind of right because we get the woman who spoke the Kryptonian language and has the House of El symbol in her hand,
burned on her hands.
Yeah, like she realizes she doesn't have her chains on when she wakes up. She quickly grabs her chains. And then once we see that, and she also smashes Calyx as well. That's a good point. But then we get a flashback to her being given this mission by Mongol, where it's not like she's like super loyal, and she's very subservient,
Mm-hmm.
But they're the ones who burned the Superman symbol into her hand, and she's told that she's got a great secret and purpose. You're going to wear this mark. You're going to go find Superman, and this will determine the fate of all your kind. So I would suspect that she's not a villain character, but more that she is being forced to do this. Out of,
this is
this
is under duress, right? Like they're basically using her, using whoever her people are, right? Because John points out that if they were Kryptonian, they should have absorbed enough yellow energy, right? Like from the sun, that it would alter them differently. So his point of just because they're speaking an old Kryptonian dialect doesn't mean they're Kryptonian, because Kara and Clark are both getting caught up on the fact that there's more Kryptonians now, because Clark's still a bit, has a bit of a guilt trip about Kandor from what Rogolzar did, and he feels, responsible for it. And Kara and him being the last two Kryptonians, right? Like, except he got Zod in them over on their planet. But, the fact that Mongol is sending her in with these brands almost to, like, infiltrate them. Like, I don't know, because he brands her people, whoever her people are here, with the S on their chest, which is gnarly. Like,
this ending certainly implies that they're not Kryptonian at all, and it's all just a ruse to make Superman and others question if they are. And John's maybe been oddly the most level-headed one, because Kara's spending her time looking to see if like, was there any other ships that left Krypton that didn't return?
Right.
Was there anything else that could have survived somehow? And she's not finding anything. And this ending here, because this flashback is the ending. This kind of reveal. So it is intriguing. Obviously, a lot of this is building up to where we're going with Action Comics and the War World stuff. It's doing a really good job of making Mongol feel threatening, and the idea that this is going to work, that John is right, but it's not just that he's right, that it's going to work, and Mongol's going to get his way, because we know Superman in some capacity is going to go to War World, and Superman, or John is going to be the acting Superman. Whether or not it plays out exactly like Action or like Future State is another question, but regardless of that, we know that Superman will be John for some time, because they're renaming the book and we're getting the Tom Taylor book instead. So, although notably it's not adding to the numbers, because they are naming it a different title. They're making it its own thing, but it is effectively the Superman book for foreseeable future. So it's interesting. I was into this. The intrigue of what Mongol's up to. The art, of course, we've mentioned, is fantastic. All the action in that first half is really great. I love Supergirl getting involved as well. Like the idea that this, of course, involves her too. Like bring her in and let's talk about who these Kryptonians are.
Yeah, it's a family decision, right? Like they do want everyone, and more minds on this are better, because even Lois is getting involved, because I want to know what her theory is. Right? We never get there, because we get the refugees backstory, but yeah. So. But I do like John kind of being wise to it, because again, to me, he's seeing the darkness of the galaxy at this point, and not just because he also went to the future. I don't think it's not something that he knows.
I'm going to theorize that it's actually more that it's just because he spent so much time with Damien, he's got a bit of cynical in him.
Yeah, why not? Right? Like that would work out. So. Yeah,
and it's not that he doesn't have the compassion or the heart that his father sort of implanted him, but he's learned some cynicism.
Which, and again, if he learned cynicism from Damien, then Damien can learn how to have a fun time from John, right? Like that's how friends share things, right? Like, so yeah, no, that's an equally valid explanation too. But it feels right coming from John, even though Kara and Lois are like, that seems very un-John of him. It's the one. He's like, I'm the only one thinking about this. You guys are getting too caught up on stuff. But no, it's very good. Philip Kennedy Johnson on Superman has been, not that I didn't enjoy Bendis. I had a talk with my the owner of my shop this week about it, and Bendis was fine. Like, he did some good stuff, but here, this is the type of stuff I look for in Superman. Like, even with him talking with Atlantis, and Atlantis being like, well, no, this is ours now. Superman's like, what do you mean? Like, oh, it's too important for it to get out. You know, he just kind of looks at Volko and Arthur, and it's kind of like, well, can we do something about this? You know, so I just like those dynamics that we never really see. So,
all right. What you rating Action Comics?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm inclined. Yeah, I think I will also go 8.5. I hate that we've both rated both books 8.5, but yeah. Obviously neither of us are reading the backup for this, which so we can move on.
Which now I feel, knowing that it ties into Superman and the Authority, but I think I'm just gonna let that ride, and because it's Morrison that's doing that. You know, I'm just gonna let it ride.
I mean, I'll try that book when it hits, but like, you know, I'm not concerned with. I just don't want to read the backup, so it's cool. Robin issue 2, Joshua Williamson writing with Gleb, Melnikov on the art. So Robin, of course, got his heart pulled out last issue, and so naturally this issue has to address that immediately. And the very first page is the panels get closer and closer as he's lying on a slab, but we see that his heart just kind of heals, almost Wolverine style. Although, can I say I liked what I assume is intentional, that on the third panel here, the blood splat like hole almost looks like an R. It almost looks like a Robin R. I thought that was a neat little
I like that
thing. He wakes up screaming. Rose is like mocking him, and because he never actually listened to the rules, he now finds out that Lazarus Island, at least during the daytime, because there's a rule that they can only fight during the daytime. Lazarus Island, you cannot die. At least the first 2 times.
3 strikes you're out. Good rules. I like that this is Williamson setting the rules going forward. You know, the first issue was getting there. Now we're there. We have to learn.
Well,
and I like that it's Ravager that's telling him.
Yeah, Ravager wants to build kind of an alliance because she's not really there to win the tournament. She's there for her own agenda.
Now, correct me here too. I thought that even in the Deathstroke book, Rose was missing an eye, like her dad. Here she has them both.
I don't remember.
Did she wear an eye patch?
I don't remember her missing an eye.
Huh. Maybe that's just pre-Flashpoint. I'm conflating the two.
I don't remember.
But I was noticing she's eye patchless here.
No, that's true. She has eye patches. Here's the thing I like about this death mechanic, right? Where you can die twice and you're fine, and the third death is a bigger deal. Is that on the one hand, okay, you can have your shock death of Damien at the end of issue 1 for the big ending, and then you can sort of quickly deal with it next issue. But I think what I like about it is the fact that once Damien learns this, right, he learns it here that, wait, so killing here is not really murdering anyone because they're coming back. That means I don't have to hold back. And he immediately goes on a rampage and kills, like, 4 other people, like, immediately. I love what it does here because it's not just using it for the shock, so you can have the shock ending of issue 1. I mean, sure, they're having their cake and eating it because they get to do that too, but they're using it mechanically to show, oh, here's what Damien's like as a fighter. If he doesn't have to, like, you know, use Batman's rules, if he doesn't have to avoid murder, without there being any consequences of us saying, oh, but he's killing people. No, he's not really, because he knows they're coming back.
No, right. At least to a certain point, because I feel like there's going to get to a point where it's someone's third strike.
Sure, yeah.
And he's gonna hesitate because he is Batman's son. You know.
Yeah. That's it though. They're all allowed to leave after the second death, knowing that the third one's more permanent. They can...
Exactly. So that's it. So it's, you know, the tournament doesn't start until everybody dies once, which is a nice mechanic, right? So, and then during the tournament, you can, you know, once you die that time, you're out and you leave. And so we find out that the prize also is immortality via the largest Lazarus pit, which we'll get to. Yeah, which I think is a fun. That's a fun prize, but like, who's gone through this, right? This seems like it's an old tournament, you know. Yet we don't know anyone who's ever won it, right? So like, what's the catch?
Didn't they say at the start though, when they were setting this up, that it's been a long time since they've had one. Like it was dormant for a long time. So
okay, that was true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
caught me slipping.
So Rose sets up kind of the biggest threats in the tournament are, right? So we get Respawn, who is very Deathstroke looking, which she comments on.
Also very Spawn-esque, which I thought was interesting because the name, right?
We get XXL, who's actually a really little guy who overcompensates with a huge ego.
Sounds like
we get Flatline, who's the one who killed him last issue.
Right.
We have Black Swan, who is kind of like a demented theater kid who killed an audience when she decided to.
It's the Black Swan movie, but in DC Comics.
Yes.
It's Aronofsky, So Flatline, sometimes I feel like I get this vibe that I don't like new characters, right? I'm grumpy. No. I love Flatline. And the fact that she is the sidekick to the Batman of Japan's nemesis, Lord Deathman, I love it. Like her whole vibe. I don't know exactly what her thing is, but the fact that she's a sidekick to Lord Deathman and her name is Flatline. She seems to have a bubbly personality, which goes counter to what she looks like. She seems like she just wants to cut loose on this island because it's the first time Lord Deathman's let her go. Yet she's enough of a threat that she's listed in the top 5, with Black Swan. And then, we get to the 5th one, who's Connor Hawk, just called Hawk, which is nice because we already have another Connor rolling around DC. And how many Connors is too many? I would argue 2.
1.
Well, I meant, So, but yeah, no, I do like this. And it looks like Connor kills Raptor for Raptor's first death here. And we see just how dangerous Connor Hawk can be. But he also apologizes, right? Which then the League of Lazarus kind of yells, remember why you're here. Remember your pledge. So what do they have on him?
Yeah, no. All valid questions. Rose wants to team up with Damien. Damien's not having it. Gets really embarrassed when she's looking at his manga.
She kind of makes fun of him for it.
Yeah.
Which I like. And he says it's personal.
Yeah.
Which I like his guardedness.
Yeah, she wants to train him, but he's like, wait, I've been trained by Batman. I don't need your training. So that night he decides to go sneaking around. He ends up running into Flatline, who comes with him, and they end up getting a glimpse of the giant Lazarus pit with the big demonic statue kind of around it.
This is the cult of Kali Ma from Temple of Doom. That's a big Temple of Doom vibes. I'm sneaking around the rocks. Just the shot of the big cavern with this pool in there. It's the largest Lazarus pit they've ever seen. So it also tells me that this tournament's not exactly what they're saying it is.
Oh, sure, right? Yeah, there's more. There's more to this for sure.
Yeah.
So then Robin gets caught in a net. He cuts his way out of it. It was Rose, and she's like, "Look, this is why you still need training because you're too cocky. You're too arrogant. We need to team up." And the cliffhanger of the issue is that they go somewhere where there's a lot of noise, and she's like, "Hey, this is where your training starts. You need to learn how to have fun." And it's actually all of the other competitors just hanging out with music and playing video games and doing whatever on the beach. So, I mean, naturally, when Stephanie Brown tried to teach Damien how to have fun, it was one of my favorite issues of that Batgirl run. So, I'm not against the concept. We'll see how it helps with the tournament. But I have to say, so far this book's been a pretty solid concept.
Yep, I like it so far. Just everything here, and I'm getting the Young Heroes vibe too, that I've been missing from Teen Titans and even Young Justice, where I just feel like Williamson almost has these characters' voices down a little bit better. And so they do feel young, and Damien feels spot on, and Rose feels right. And yeah, everything is working out so far. It's paced perfectly too, because of course we got, this is the issue that introduces the rules. And after, like I said earlier, the first issue was Damien getting there. And now this is how it's going to go. And I feel like the bulk is going to be the tournament, right? We're going to see who he's facing off against. And we know it's going to come down to him versus Connor Hawk. That was set up in the 0 issue. So, yeah, I just really like this book. It's a whole lot of fun.
apologies for the random noise that I'm sure people just heard on the audio. Matt didn't hear it, but I did. That is just a glitch, something to do with Streamlabs. I don't know why it gave me a notification sound there. But it's done this before, randomly once or twice, and then it stopped doing it, and then it just did it again. So it may happen again. So I'm just warning people, if you hear that noise again. There's nothing I can do. Because it's not a glitch, it's not on my profile. Right. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, Robin's been solid. The art's really good, I think. The combat, the action looks good.
Yeah.
Very expressive with Damien, especially. You know, Rose kind of having that smirk as she's like sort of telling him that he needs to grow up and he needs help, he needs to be trained.
Yeah.
All good stuff.
The part that made me realize her eye patch was missing was the wink, where she goes, "I'll train you." And I was like, okay, something's off with this. And oh, it's her eye patch. But I love that page, just because the way.
I mean, maybe she did have an eye patch before, but maybe that's the whole point of the wink. Is the wink is like, hey, remember there was an eye patch here before?
Maybe, sure, but I'm just saying, it like for a book that's about a tournament where you have to kill each other. That is a very bright and shiny page. You know, that's almost, I don't want to say it's twee, but just I'll train you. Like I almost read it in like a kid's voice kind of deal, you know? Like, I don't know. Almost like it's from a kid's show or Teen Titans Go, which kind of runs opposite of what this book is. So it was nice. And we know she's there for her own reasons. You know, maybe they involve Respawn.
Maybe they involve Jason Todd. Maybe they involve a number of things.
Maybe, yeah. Well, Jason's showing up in issue 5 with the rest of the Bat Fam, the Bird Gang. So I'm gonna call it a group of sidekicks, the Bird Gang. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is very, very fun read.
I like the coloring, especially. See when they're sneaking into the Lazarus pit area, the green glow and everything. I thought was a really nice touch, really well handled. So
yep.
So very nice. What are you giving Robin issue 2?
I'm giving this a solid 8.
I'm giving the exact same scores as you too much, but I mean, I guess if we're in sync, we're in sync. 8 out of 10 for me as well. Stargirl Spring Break Special Issue 1, Geoff Johns and Brian Hitch. Let's just get the first thing out of the way. At the end of this book, it does say to be continued in Stargirl Issue 1.
Yes. Good. Also, the art is not Hitch. Hitch does that. This is Todd Knock. NAUC. Yeah, the art is not.
Hitch was mentioned.
Yeah, in the back with the Justice Society stuff. But the artist is Todd Knock.
Okay.
It's there on the title page. So I just want to give credit where it's due.
Fair enough, but the important thing I was mentioning that we didn't know there was a Stargirl book coming.
No.
When it got to the end and the story wasn't finished and it said to be continued, I was like, oh, okay. Which is interesting because it's still not solicited. We got August solicits today and there's still no Stargirl issue 1.
No. However, the how much this plays into Justice Society, it makes me wonder if they're waiting for Infinite Frontier to finish.
That would make some sense, yeah.
So to see where that is.
But I was not expecting the first page of the Stargirl special to be Oliver Queen and Emmy. Like, I was not expecting that to be how this starts. I was like, okay, this is weird, but go on.
And I just so 7 Soldiers of Victory is like a real big blind spot. As much of a continuity nerd I am, it was just always one of those things where I was like, well, this seems pretty superfluous to the Justice Society. And I was like, well, wait, how do they explain Green Arrow being there? And here, I love that it involves time travel. So, like, Green Arrow went to the past, was part of this team, and they got returned to the present.
Yeah, with Roy as well. Yeah, Roy went back
with Roy. Yeah, with Roy. And then Ollie kind of states, and this is why I love Johns, and I know a lot of people out there don't love Johns as much as I do, or even Pete does, but the dude knows his stuff. Like, he knows these characters. And so the fact that he has has Ollie go, yeah, I feel like some of Roy's issues came from this time travel and not being able to adjust to what had happened while we were gone. I love that tie back to continuity. Like, it sets these characters, they're almost like they're actual living people, that these stories have an impact on them. And here he's schooling Emmy because Emmy is like, no, you weren't even the first Green Arrow. There was some dude in the 40s.
Yeah, this is how we learn about this. She says, "No, that was one with the clean shaven in the forest." He's like, "You were in the front," and he's like, "Yes, I was. That was me and Roy. We went back in time."
Yeah, what? Did you hit your head or something? And yeah, it involves Clock King, and I love all of that. And of course, Emmy. Anytime I can get Emmy, like.
Well, this is the thing. This ends up being an Emmy and Stargirl kind of team up at a certain point.
Yeah.
I mean, before we even get to that though, Crimson Avenger shows up and says, "Oh, you're needed, the Seven Soldiers, blah blah." Yep. So that draws them into something, and then we finally cut to Stargirl, who's in detention because she was late or didn't do homework or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get the big 2-page cover, or not cover, the title page where she's riding on the back of Stripe, and they're off because, again, he's been told that he needs to go and see someone. To Myrtle Beach, which I assume is just
spring break spot.
It's a real place, but I mean, I hear Myrtle Beach and I'm thinking of Dark City. Because isn't Myrtle Beach the beach in that they keep wanting to go to?
No, I've never seen Dark City.
Okay, it's spelled differently, I think, but
so Myrtle Beach is a spring break spot on the southeast part of in South Carolina. So of course they have to go here, during spring break because it's spring break special.
And Courtney's feeling sad because like all these kids are having fun and she's kind of on duty.
Yeah. So this is the thing that I need to go back and read Stars and Stripes. I hope they are reprinting that. I think they are, because that was a John's book that was in my blind spot. I was always trying to figure out how her stepdad Pat was also around in the 40s, and now John's had said that because of the timey-wimey that brought Ollie back, the Seven Soldiers got brought to the present.
Yes. So
and he's one of them.
Yeah, so Pat's actually from the Golden Age, but he moved forward in time now.
Right, and then he met Courtney's mom, they got married, and now...
At least in current continuity. Obviously, things have changed over time because we keep resetting and changing things, but...
Right.
At least right now, that's the story.
It was just always one of those things that it was hard to wrap my head around. And I know John just went with it because of the whole Justice Society and they age slower because of, comic book reasons and stuff. But just here and how intrinsically it's tying Stargirl now, that instead of just the Justice Society, he's tying her to the Seven Soldiers. Well, which I get. Right.
I was going to say this is the thing is this issue is so much about Seven Soldiers in terms of like that's the backdrop for the story that's playing out with Courtney and everything else. That when you get to the end of the book and you have the 2-page, because I was thinking, okay, this is neat, but I'm more of a JSA guy than I'm a Seven Soldiers guy. Like, so when you get to that 2-page spread at the end, just to make it clear that no, this Courtney stuff is also leading and going to be tying into JSA stuff at some point, was a nice like sort of like, oh, okay. I feel relief. I feel relieved. Thank you.
Yeah. But so I do like though that because she's so tied to the Seven Soldiers, because she is the legacy of two heroes, which is super rare when you think about it. Right? So she's the legacy of Starman because she was given the rod, the staff at this point, from Jack Knight, and or is it Ted Knight? I gotta reread Starman. Anyways, one of the knights. But she's also the heir to the Star Spangled Kid legacy, So the fact here that they're playing with that this is what's going to be her reentry in the meta sense to the DCU, I really like that. And especially, you can give me characters to research that were all around in the Golden Age, and it makes it feel super pulpy. I'm there for it.
I mean, the way this operates is that it kind of just sort of like. It's one of those things where it's basically Stars and Stripe, even though not everything might match up perfectly still, this is effectively assuming that that's still more or less your continuity origin for all this stuff. And by extension to a point, kind of the TV show too, which is smart because some people may pick up a Stargirl book now who wouldn't have before because they've seen the TV show.
Well, no, you've seen the first season.
Yes. And
didn't you say Seven Soldiers plays into it at one point? Like a small thread?
Yeah. I mean, they're mentioned. Okay. There's only one that's really heavily featured, but yeah.
Right. So if that tells me anything, he's show running that. He wants that synergy there. So
Yeah. So there's a bit of a roll call explaining the various soldiers, and tells the story of the original Crimson Avenger and seemingly his death. Although they find out that it's more of a he jumped through time with the ship that he was on. Which they go off to try and deal with the Clock King and everything going on. Courtney and Emmy decide, we're not sitting this out, and just because a bunch of young heroes have died before, we're not staying back.
I mean, it's DC; it happens every week.
Yeah, this is par for the course. I did kind of love Emmy just sort of riding on the back of the staff as Courtney's like piloting up front. It's kind of a fun visual.
Fun. So, also with this too is that they're talking about Wing, who Wing was Crimson Avenger's, like, here they say sidekick, but when I did some research, basically Crimson Avenger, when they started, it was the Green Hornet and Kato, and Wing was his butler and chauffeur. And so I feel like here this is John's trying to make good on that stereotype, right? That he's putting Wing up on a pedestal and go, no, technically Wing was the de facto eighth soldier, but he sacrificed himself, and this is who we have to restore. It's almost like they're restoring him to the timeline, which there's a character I had no idea about, and I thought Johns had just added there, right? But no, this is he's all playing with established Seven Soldier story.
Well, I mean, this is something we have to do from time to time with comics because, so many comics were written long ago when things, where there were stereotypes, there were racist and homophobic things thrown into comics, and we have to clear them up over time. And it's certainly not a bad way of doing it.
No. I wouldn't be surprised that through the Stargirl series and we start rectifying a lot of those, because if you're going to reintroduce a 40s era JSA, you kind of have to deal with those, but in a smart way. And I feel like doing something like this, where you're putting Wing as almost the MacGuffin, and they have to settle the Crimson Avenger time loop almost thing, right? That I feel like he's just playing again. I love when John plays his continuity, and he's doing that here. So, but yeah, so you got them and Emmy, and they're fighting Clock King on this giant clock in the middle of this time storm, and there's pterodactyls attacking and whatnot.
Clearly there's paradoxes and time anomalies happening around all this Clock King stuff, and this is a very classic looking Clock King with the blue and the green cape and the clock face. This is not the more uptight sort of posh looking dude.
The dude with the cane and the glasses that was like watch faces.
Very different type of Clock King. At one point, Oliver gets blasted with like a time wave, and we see like young Oliver and then old Oliver who's missing the arm and has the beard.
The Dark Knight Returns version.
Yeah, we see them sort of all side by side, sort of react to in pain at the same time. And Oliver says that he feels kind of weird after, like he felt like he saw the whole timeline in one fell swoop. But this is Courtney and Emmy jumping in and actually really saving the day and getting to Crimson Avenger. And Crimson Avenger, effectively, them trying to like save this. It turns out that all along, Crimson Avenger was destined to die on this ship.
Right.
He just makes the choice now in the future where he's going to sexually save everyone by sacrificing himself. But it's. I mean, I think this is a really solid issue in terms of interest and all this stuff. It's maybe a little bit overstuffed in terms of how many characters you have to sort of take on board. If you're not familiar with a lot of these characters, there's a lot to take in here. But it does feel like it reminds me of reading JSA a little bit. Like it reminds me of having like all that dense history where I don't necessarily know all of it. I don't necessarily get all of it right away. But clearly Johns loves all these characters, is trying to like build them all up at the same time. And this reminds me a lot of that issue. If you go back to the start of the JSA run, there was like a secret files thing before the actual run started. It kind of reminds me of that, even though Johns himself wasn't actually heavily involved in it until issue 6 or whatever it was. But it's giving me that kind of vibe, and that's kind of what I'm getting here from this.
Yeah, so like Crimson Avenger, this version, the new one, Joe Carlisle. I had forgotten about that character because it's been forever since I read Justice Society, where she had showed up. So trying to rectify all of that with this version of Crimson Avenger was a lot for me, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And this is the type of stuff that I used to do when I first started reading comics, and it was a lot more difficult, to search through. Like you got to maybe go to the shop and ask someone if they knew what was up. Now thankfully we have Google.
We have DC Wiki.
Yeah, DC wikis and whatnot. So, just to see like for them to mention that the Crimson Avenger was kind of the first superhero, even predating Sandman, and it stopped using guns and used gas guns before Sandman, and just how much
And I like that detail as well. That Wing was the one who kind of stopped the gun, kind of like inspired him to stop using guns and start using non-lethal methods
and stuff. And the fact that we see Wing running through some weird dimension with two people in shadows, one of which looks like Obsidian, if I had to guess just from the outline, which would maybe make the other one Jade. But basically talking about they have to get back to Judy Garrick, which isn't Judy Jay's wife. I can't remember.
I don't remember her name being Judy.
No, I don't either. But does he have a daughter then? Because we get to the point at the end of this where Courtney...
I assumed it was referring to a daughter or something, even though I don't remember there being a daughter. But like that's the sort of thing where continuity might have changed, and I just don't know about it.
It's Joan, not Judy.
Yeah, that's what. Joan's the wife. Yeah, Joan's the wife.
Yeah, let me see. Look. Yeah. So who's Judy Garrick? That's a good question. But so basically.
She could be new. This could be an intentional tease, but because obviously we're all going to see the name Garrick and go, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, so it says this way, hurry, we can't leave Judy Garrick behind. We can't leave any of them here secret. So that lady's okay. So that's Secret, who's another established DC character. So it's not. I should have looked by the tendrils. There's like smoke coming off her. And he says, "We're not going to, Danny." So now I smell a mystery.
Yes. I mean, to sum all this up, because I feel like we're getting lost in the weeds a little bit here. I think we have to just kind of sum up the event of what actually happened in this issue. So, the original Crimson Avenger, not the newer one with the blindfold and the gloves, right? Who's the one I do remember from GSA. But she has gathered all the 7 soldiers who currently exist, which, obviously... has changed a little bit since the Golden Age. But basically, the ship that the original Crimson Avenger on with Clock King's weird device that was causing all the time anomalies, that appeared in present day near the beach, near the Myrtle Beach, and they're all out there fighting. Courtney and Emmy go out to try and help, and they're the ones that actually get to Crimson Avenger, the original Crimson Avenger, and actually help destroy the device, which then fixes all the problems. But through all these time anomalies, we see glimpses of Wing with these other characters. We see glimpses of these other things going on. I'm trying to sum up the actual, just so people understand, if they haven't read it or whatever, just to give a sense of what's actually going on here, because I feel like we're doing all these details and
no, you're fine. Because I was rushing to get to the green text here towards the end, which I feel that this is the plot thread going forward.
Oh sure, yes. The childminder is coming. The lost sons, the lost daughters, the children need to be free. Which to me sounds like a lot of kids who were written out of continuity are coming back to continuity. That's what it sounds like.
That's what I wanted to get to, and that's why that's why I got so hyper focused on who Judy Garrick is and stuff and whatnot, because this is one of those things that it's playing with continuity, and I'm here for that, because when you have as much continuity as DC does, there's a lot to mine there.
I mean, have you found a Judy Garrick?
No. No.
I mean, maybe this is like a Dawn from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer type thing, where they're going to insert a daughter of Jay Garrick and coming back with all these other characters who have been written out of continuity, but she never actually existed in the first place. They're just adding her in as like an extra. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. But
so I also want to point out too that the Secret. So I just pulled her up. Co-created by Todd Knock, who drew this.
There you go.
So whatever it is, I don't know. Obsidian's name is Todd, so that's whoever Danny is. So yeah, So whoever these lost quote characters are, I feel like this is kind of the bridge to when we can get to the Justice Society and whatnot, just based off of this, because Courtney and Emmy come in and help save the day, and the machine implodes and everyone's safe, and she gets her superhero spring break adventure, which I do love the ending here, because they're all gone back and they have dinner, but she's because only I think she's the only one that heard that, right? Because they had a service for Lee Travis and stuff, but he sent her to Dr. Midnight, so Dr. Midnight's around in this now, right? So what does this mean for the greater JSA stuff too? That got me there.
Yeah, well, the actual ending is Emmy showing up to Courtney and saying, "Hey, everyone says Wing is dead, but I've got a lead." And she's like, "Yeah, let me get my staff." And it just says "to be continued" in Stargirl issue 1, which is the end of the main part of the story. So that was like exciting to see that at the bottom there, because they hadn't actually mentioned that as of yet. And I didn't really see spoilers or anything. And I thought the book was mostly done on some like backup material, but there is actually a couple of more pages. There's a tease of Degaton, who is the sort of Nazi style like villain,
Nazi time traveler. As if I need a better villain, right?
Because this is the thing, the Clock King, well, it was his doing that caused all the problems. The tech that he was using was kind of ripped off from this Degaton, who I don't know really well, but I'm excited by the prospect here. And then
time traveling Nazi. That's all you need.
And then it leads to so at the end of that page, there are people I'm going to hurt, and then you turn the page and there's a 2-page spread. It is more or less a pin-up. It says, so it continues his speech where he says a lot of them. And who do we see on this page? We see a glorious 2-page spread of the JSA, including a lot of the characters you'd be hoping for, some that you expect, some are kind of the younger, newer versions, and then but you see like the older versions sort of in a more muted color tone in the back, But I would presume that this the front batch that are in full color, that is going to be the present day JSA with all the legacy characters, because that only partly because you've got Courtney, but you also have a lot of younger versions. You have the new Dr. Midnight, the new Wildcat. You have the new younger versions of these characters, whereas the ones in the back are the Golden Age versions. So, I mean, are we going to get like 2 books? Are we going to get like the Golden Age version in a book and then the modern version in a book? Are we going to get a book where it sort of jumps between the timelines of both of them because there's time travel?
So if it's John's, it wouldn't surprise me if it's both at the same time. If we're using the past to tell, or telling the future to tell the story of the past, because you look at some of these, like you have Earth 2, Power Girl, and Huntress there in the background. You have Power Girl.
You have Power Girl in the foreground as well.
But no Huntress, right? So it's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, because Earth 2 Huntress would be Helena Wayne, whereas the Huntress we have in current continuity is not that. It's Bartonelli.
But also Earth 2 Power Girl is Kara Zor-El. It's grown up Supergirl. So so you just have a whole bunch of them through here. You have the Hawks in the background there too. You have Wonder Woman in multiple spots. And same with Dr. Midnight. So it seems like there's like almost 3 versions of the Justice Society here, to play off of. Although I am missing Liberty Bell and or Jessie Quick, whatever she's going to go by.
That's a bummer. It's actually really easy to distinguish. I mean, I don't think it's really that important that there's 3 versions, although I do agree that the background is split in 2. I think the right-hand side is the Earth 2 version of the JSA, and then the left-hand side is the Golden Age version of the JSA is my... And
this is the if you smash them together, you get the foreground guys, which is our Justice Society.
I mean, but a lot of it's the legacy versions. It's the newer, younger versions, and so on. Obviously, I am delighted by wherever this is going. Like the idea that this is actually leading to JSA stuff, whether it's a JSA book or... Because I can see it not being... I can see John's doing a Stargirl book, but then JSA's by Snyder.
Well, yeah, but see, it says on here, Justice Society by Johns and Hitch. Now, you're not just going to give that to the pinup.
Well, it's also the page before as well. The page before is also John's
Oh
and
yeah,
Mitch.
true.
So it's technically a 2-page story. So
you got me there.
Yeah, I think this is just the credits for this little 2-page thing.
Gotcha.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. Am I going to be upset if if it's John's GSA and a Stargirl book at the same time that are interlinked? Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up all day long. But just given how much there was Snyder teasing for GSA stuff for a long time, it wouldn't surprise me if he was still doing the GSA book. That was, he was going to work closely with Johns, who's doing Stargirl. That wouldn't shock me either. But
just give them to me. I miss them.
Of course.
So
yeah. But there was some decent GSA related stuff in the last issue of Flash, so
I have to get there.
You have to get there.
So
so there you go. That's basically it. There's a Where's Stripesy page at the back just for fun. But
like an idiot, I yelled, "Found him!" as I was reading this at work. Yeah. So.
Oh, no point in spoiling it. You might as well, if you're reading the book at home, you might as well find it for yourself. So. Yeah, needless to say, very interesting stuff. Excited about the future. I like the kind of the solid sort of grounding of trying to tie all this continuity together, and it feels like if it lives up to what I want it to be, which is basically just a new version of GSA. Even if it's not, even if Johns isn't doing GSA and he's just in a Stargirl book, even if the Stargirl book is just kind of, that's the young GSA book frontline by Stargirl, and the same way the TV show is kind of, they're doing young GSA, but I mean it's called Stargirl. I'm okay with that too. But I'm delighted by the prospect of that. I think as an issue, I think all the continuity stuff that it's teasing and all the stuff that it's doing is really interesting. It's not necessarily the best pace book, and it's definitely maybe a little too overstuffed with characters at points. So I wouldn't say it's the best crafted issue. I would say it's a decent crafted issue with a lot of really exciting forward-going ideas and teases.
I mean, it is a special, so I feel like it did feel special in this. You know what I mean? I did enjoy the story, but I also love pulpy, timey-wimey stuff that plays with continuity. So this is right in my nook.
Yes, but specials that also play with timey-wimey continuity stuff can still be better paced.
I don't know. I didn't mind the pacing, so I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I think there's some maybe some technical qualms with it, but I'm into what it's doing. So dare I ask, Matt, what are you rating the Stargirl Spring Break Special issue 1?
I'm giving this a 9, and I know that's high, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a little overstuffed in places. So I'm going to go a bit lower and say the 8, but I am very excited about everything that it's setting up and whatnot. I love the tease of Digaton anyway, but when he said I'm going to hurt a lot of people, then you turn the page and it's that GSA 2-page spread. I popped. I popped for that. So.
Yep.
Cool stuff.
That's great.
All right. Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom, issue 1, Brandon Easton and Fico Ossio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, on the art. So, yeah, it's a Shiloh Norman, Mr. Miracle, interesting him. What's interesting is I'm not sure how much Scott Freeze existed in the world in the context of this story.
Yeah, there's some strange stuff at play that I feel like is part of the story that's being told.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff to get into. Oh wait, no, I tell a lie. I forgot the last page. Scott Free does exist in this world. Of course he does.
He does, but in what form? Right?
Yeah. I forgot.
I will say my biggest drawback to this was the ending. I don't like
because I think I just remembered wondering that throughout the issue. I'd forgotten what the cliffhanger was at the end. So we see that this Mr. Miracle is kind of a celebrity. He's a obviously secret identity celebrity, but he does stunts and does feats. He does this big thing at the start, pay-per-view, where he jumps basically from orbit into Earth and has to get out the chains, and everyone thinks he dies, and it's this big, spectacular stunt. But when they go to find him, when they think they're going to find a crash landing, he's sitting there sipping a beverage, as if it's nothing, as if it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the setup for it.
Yeah, he's an escape artist, so of course that was part of it. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of him talking with his agent and stuff like that.
And he doesn't want to release his identity, even though his agent thinks it'll do better numbers for him. The dropping in demographics, the ratings are going down a little bit.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be, an action. Well, there's action figures and stuff anyway, but he doesn't want to be, this. He doesn't.
Which is funny because this is the same guy that did the backup in Future State, where there was a bunch of Mr. Miracle action figures and stuff. Like that was part of the story. So I did like that. That was a nice little subtle thing. Like he is a full-blown celebrity, not just a cape hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he brings up Thaddeus Brown. Which, are you familiar with Thaddeus Brown?
Yeah, so Thaddeus Brown is his mentor that taught him the art of escape, who also worked with Scott Free. I know in my limited knowledge of the Fourth World stuff, because that's still a big blind spot for me. But yeah, he was a circus escape artist, the first person. So he was the actual first Mr. Miracle. And then when Scott Free got to Earth, when he escapes Apocalypse, that's where Scott Free comes from.
Yeah, because his agent says you don't want the world to know you're black, basically, and he says I'm not ashamed of who I am or what I stand for, but Thaddeus Brown suffered tremendously once he was exposed. So that obviously his race is going to play into the story. It is mentioned numerous times,
which I liked. The meta context of this I like is that even though he's an escape artist, he can't escape the his skin color. Like no matter what he does, he's still going to be held to a different standard than everybody else. And I like that thread through this, because those are the
that's kind of what he says about wearing the mask, is that it's the one time he doesn't have to feel that. Right. It's just the one time he's free of that in a sense.
Right, exactly. And so I like all of that, and then that's when we got to the end part, and this part about legacy and just the look and stuff. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is not where I thought it was going to go, because I was enjoying it for the most part. The dialogue and stuff's a little bit weird, because he meets a firefighter, right?
I was going to say, you're skipping over the whole middle chunk of the book, which is him helping out at a fire, and he meets this firefighter who he seems to like quite a bit. And to the point, and this is actually something I've never seen done in a superhero comic before, where he wants to ask her on a date, so he's going to have to tell her who he is. So he makes her sign an NDA to accept a date, which is, I've never seen done in a comic before, which is really weird.
And if that's a real thing, that's even weirder. Because they go, oh, movie stars do this all the time.
Well,
and it's like,
I don't know if maybe they do it for details of their personal life, because everyone's so desperate. It's just to so they don't do the gossip interview where they tell some magazine everything they know about them or whatever. But that's different from this, where it's no, you can't tell anyone who he is. You're going to find out who he is.
And here it makes sense though, because he is this masked character. That's the mystique is part of what makes Mr. Miracle work, right? So I get that. It's just his lack of skill being able to talk to anybody. That page was so awkward, and I understand. I understand the point of it is to show how awkward of a person he is, but it just didn't land for me. Him going off about movies and demographics and the real money's in network TV and all this other stuff. It was real awkward.
Yeah. Oh, before we get to the date though, he talks about that was very loud, Matt.
Sorry, I hit my iPad. It is in front of me.
Yeah, because he does this TV interview and it doesn't go that well. There's shitty social media comments and stuff. And again, his publicist, his agent, is trying to talk to him about it's not 1969. Things are better. And he's like, you're right. It's not 1969, but it doesn't really change anything. Things are still bad. He talks about how the elders in his community would hope that eventually the good white people will do the right thing eventually, but they all went to their graves disappointed. And it really hammers these themes. It's not afraid to have the social commentary throughout there. It's definitely not an accident that when he's making this speech and there's a lot of like screens up like showing various news and video feeds. There's someone holding a sign saying "I can't breathe." Like the very specific political like reference that's making is not, I think, lost in most people.
No.
So yeah, so he goes to this date with the firefighter, and they kind of flirt a little bit, and it seems to be going fine. But yeah, like you say, there's this kind of thing where he keeps talking about basically his career and movie numbers and demographics and where you make money as a star. And then by the time you get to the bottom of the page and like time has passed because it's gotten dark, she's looking like so bored. And to be fair, I get why she looks bored. All he's doing is talking about himself in this really nitty gritty way. And then, you know, I was like, is there more to you than this? Like, is there anything else going on with you?
And then this jerk goes, "Oh, I thought for a firefighter you'd be more interesting." And I was like, "Oh, bro."
Yeah, he's so self-centered. It's, you know, I think it is actually very interesting to give as a character who immediately we're going to give flaws to.
Yeah.
We're going to give, you know.
Yeah. Just the way it was handled. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy reading it like that because I was like, "Oh, this is kind of rough right now." But I get where it's coming from. But yeah.
Yeah. And she storms off. He tries to call her back, say, "Oh, I'm sorry, let me explain. I've had a rough week," kind of thing. But yeah, it comes off as a really dickish moment, and it's kind of interesting to take that path with your character. Then you get to kind of the big thing where someone knows who he is because his apartment's been broken into, and the words "thief" have been written all over the walls. Someone calls him a ghetto hero. Oh, sorry, that's also written on the wall. It's the same person, obviously.
Yeah.
Just things written out, liar, stuff like that. And then there's a couple of blasts of energy, and the big cliffhanger at the end is the true inheritor. So this guy shows up with he's got a bit of the yellow, green, and red on him, but he's also got silver. He's got like a super over the top mask and cape. Calls himself Navier Free. Says he's the child of Mr. Miracle and Barda. And he's the true inheritor of the Mr. Miracle mantle. So this is what's so weird about this is that if we didn't have the 12-issue Mr. Miracle book, I still wouldn't necessarily be like super in love with this necessarily, because it still feel like a bit of a cheap, end of issue 1 cliffhanger or whatever. But because I loved that book so much, and it is by far the definitive version of Mr. Miracle, and it's what I think about when I think of Mr. Miracle now, and the story of them having their child is so sweet that obviously this isn't the name that the kid has in that book, obviously, but
no.
So it's not even really meant to be the same character, but the idea that there's some deranged Mr. Miracle kid of Barda and Scott from the future or something showing up here to fight this new Mr. Miracle. I don't know. Something about it just sort of made me go, okay. Yeah. I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm not going to say that there's not possible stuff to come from it. But I like
the idea of the legacy and who's supposed to be able to have the mantle, that if it was meant to be passed down from father and to son, yet here Shiloh Norman is using the Mr. Miracle mantle and stuff, and you can get into the whole race dynamics of that too, because here he calls him weak, stupid, and worthless, yet he doesn't know him, right? So there's a lot of presumptions going on.
It's interesting because he this character Navier, he feels entitled to it because his father was scot-free, but Shiloh was mentored by the same person that Scott took it from, and so Scott took it from a black man. So there is kind of this line here of this idiot, Navier Free feels entitled to it, but arguably, at the very least, Shiloh is equally entitled to it because he was mentored by the original Mr. Miracle. But on top of that, arguably it should go back to a black person because it did come from a black person.
Right.
And this is this white asshole comes in here going, man, this belongs to me.
Because he's entitled to it. And it's like, well, no, I have earned this. And so again, it's that whole race dynamic thing of what's earned and what's entitled and whatnot. So it fits the story. the dude's name is Navir Free, which comes out to be Never Free, which tells me that he's really not the son of Scott Free, right? That's got anti-life equation written all over it.
I don't know. I think the problem is, I mean, and there'll probably be more to it, and maybe some reveals that you say about who he really is, or there's the context for why he's acting like this, or whatever. But ultimately, I just like. I don't think I like the idea right now of Scott Free and Big Barda's kid being a dick. Like, I don't think I like that idea right now, because right now, to me, that's a baby. It's a baby who had a very sweet emotional story building to, and what that represented to both of those characters.
And just the whole idea of the fourth world, what I do like about that, and the thing I am familiar with, is the whole idea that the fourth world, when it ends, Earth will become the fifth world. And that's why there's so much superhero shenanigans going on, right? That's what Kirby had always set up in that. So the whole idea of legacy is built in to the New Gods and the fourth world. So the idea that this story, as the first issue, is about legacy and whose legacy is it, I really like. Just the execution here, a little bit off. So like you said, in my head, that's a baby. And a baby's not wearing that stupid costume, which I don't even like to look at the costume, because it's like they took Barda's costume and Scott's costume and just threw it in a blender.
It's overdone,
yeah. The helmet, the big mask,
the mohawk.
I don't like. No,
it's
don't like
overdone.
It.
It's overdone.
So
I think I like the first chunk of it, which is okay. He's this Daredevil's, escape artist. He's doing pay-per-view stuff. They talk with the agent about demographics. I actually kind of liked. I liked like the agent trying to talk him into doing things, but being kind of sympathetic as to why he feels uncomfortable doing certain things. Once you get to the date, it's a little bit murky, although I do appreciate the attempt to give us someone who's not perfect, because it's too easy with a main character to just give us someone who's great. Once you get to the kid from the future, I mean, I'm assuming it has to be, right? Unless this is set in the future, which I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, because this is a character that was doing stuff in Future State.
Yeah.
So also, I like the idea of another hero being active in Metropolis, and the fact that he's so tied to Suicide Slum, right? Like, that's his neighborhood. That's where he grew up, So on top of that, you'd think that it's taking place in current time, with everything that's going on, like in the backup of Superman, with all of those, other characters, you'd think this is modern day. So we'll see. This did not.
Like I like the because we talked a bit about the question of who does the legacy belong to and the entitlement of this character. I think what dilutes it a little bit is that we had to invent this character to do it, and I don't know if it feels like it doesn't sit well with everything else that we know about the other Mr. Miracle character. And admittedly, like, how in continuity was that Mr. Miracle book? Sure, okay, that's a fair point, but a lot of it's connected to it, so it's hard to just jump into this and take this new child of Scott and Barda and not just be like, even though the questions that are raised from it and like the themes that it's going to explore because of it are actually quite interesting. So yeah, so a little mixed in places, I would say.
For sure. It hasn't chased me off of wanting to keep reading it. I got to that last page and I was otherwise like, I was having some like hesitations about it. Then I got to that last page and I went, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this one? Like, I do like the whole concept of legacy and who it belongs to. Like that whole, the whole social media.
Mike. And continue.
The whole social media aspect of it, right? Like, the trolls coming after him.
Yeah. So. No, there's definitely a lot of good stuff in here. It's just not everything clicks either. So with that said, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I was thinking 7. I think there's enough good in here that I'm excited about what it's going to explore. But we'll see how much it leans into this wackiness of this character at the end. Before I get too complimentary. So yeah, and the art's solid, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not the same artist. So the artist that does the covers did the did the backups in the future state, I much prefer. But this art's not bad. Like I'm not.
No,
It's not
it's a little bit more house style, but not super soul, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So there you go. Mr. Miracle, the source of freedom. Batman Superman issue 18, Jean Lun Yang writing, Ivan Reis on the art. This is the next part of our little worlds. And last issue ended with the tease that now Batman and Robin are going to go into the Superman and Lois world of the two. And of course, a lot of the encounters you expect there, where he's going to meet this Martha who's kind of evil. They're going to meet this Bruce who's a bit more of a wimp. They're going to do these things and all those encounters. And then likewise, this issue kind of ends with a tease of what's happening next. And it looks like the Batman, Superman, Lois, and Robin of these two worlds are coming into the main DC world now at the end of this issue with the real Batman and Superman.
They look like little tinies.
Yeah. It's
pretty hilarious, which cracks me up because that was one of our favorite things. And when Williamson was writing with the little mini, when they threw the Candor into the Lazarus pit. So it was giving me vibes of that. So that cracked me up. But yeah, I just love Yang like telling such an unconventional story, right? He's telling it on two fronts. He's telling the story of, how different Batman and Superman are and what their worlds are like without the other. And just like how much of a spineless coward Bruce is, with his mom here, that you feel like the mom doesn't treat him right. So that's why he's the way that he is, and I mean, in fact, she makes him a bizarro Two-Face at the end, Yeah,
like, she injects him
just
with
a means to an end.
Yeah, she injects him with a serum from this Atom guy, who turns out to actually be a third Lex Luthor.
From another, from another one of these archived worlds.
It's a Lex who's become aware that there's the archivist who's burning any world that doesn't become perfect. So he's trying to build a perfect world. So the ultimate bad guy is a Lex, which is obviously par for the course. What I do like about this though, I do like that when Bruce is injected with something, it turns him into Bizarro because it's very it's a Lex experiment to make a Superman gone wrong. That's kind of funny to me, but I like that the Superman and Batman of these two worlds, once we start getting into this issue a little bit and they start to help each other out, they almost start to form the world's finest bond naturally very quickly. And it's like, hey, it's not taking long, even though they're coming from literally different worlds, where that bond is starting to form. Which I kind of appreciated. I thought it was a nice little commentary on just like the Batman-Superman relationship, which I kind of dug. So, yeah, Jimmy's running away from Ben Alfred. I forgot about Ben Alfred. I was delighted to see Ben Alfred again.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. Also,
the trigonometry homework. I love that line.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was laughing at so Batman figures out when they transport into the new world that they're actually in a different version of the Batcave. But Robin doesn't figure it out until they're going up the stairs, and Robin goes, "Wait a minute, these are our stairs." And Batman goes, "Took you long enough. You're going to need some more homework when we get back."
Yeah, that was pretty great.
I was thinking some of that. Obviously the emotional reactions of seeing Martha and the rest of it all makes complete sense. But but Superman cauterizing the wound with his heat vision, and Batman thanking him, and this camaraderie is starting to build like so quickly. It's a really, really neat touch. But a lot of it then comes down to Martha injecting her Bruce with the serum, which turns him into a Bizarro at first, even talks like Bizarro, but then half of him kind of turns back, so he ends up Two-Face Bizarro at the end.
It's such a great amalgam of stuff. It's like you can tell Yang's having a lot of fun with these concepts, where they were just kind of like, do whatever you want. It's an archived world that could burn up at the end. Yeah, it's so wacky. Yeah, I love when this Lex, this final villain Lex, who's like been jumping between world to world. Like when he's explaining who he is, that it's like it doesn't because most of the panels, of course, are in the film strips, right? That's been the art style. But when he's explaining things, he's just in front of a lot of like different film strips. It completely changes the style from the regular stories that have been told. But of course, Lex makes another barrier in the film.
and this is where we end with them coming out into the real world. And yes, they're like action figure sized.
Yeah.
And we should mention that Auteur.io, which by the way, still love the name Auteur.io, has a Phantom Zone crystal, which is kind of the real world Cliffhanger. So we still have a few issues left of this because we know the conclusion isn't coming till August. So
yeah,
I am fascinated to see how we get 3 more issues. Because it's done such a good job of changing up the status quo at the end of each issue that I am fascinated to see, okay, what's it going to be at the end of this one then? Like, the next issue, I mean, are they going to become full size? Are we going to get them to see what this world's like with Batman and Superman? Or even just talking to Batman and Superman about, this Batman and Superman who do exist together and have this friendship. Like, what do they make of this? There's a lot of ideas. Like, does little Robin get to see, like, Nightwing grown up? Like, what's his reaction to that?
Yeah. That'd be cool.
There's potential. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of potential.
So, just a fun time. It's not an important story. It's nothing that's ever going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
I think in context of things, but
yeah, but I'm still enjoying it because I do love that Yang just seems to be having fun, and that's where when we saw in the Solicits that the annual was going to be one of those flip books where one half of it is Superman. And then the back half, you flip it over. Like, he's done this since he's come to DC. Just telling, using the format, and it's almost an incentive to pick things up physically. Like that Terrifics Choose Your Own and stuff. So he's having fun. Just let him have his little corner, and
Yeah, I don't think everything he does always works, but I cannot, fault the man for trying to be inventive with the format and trying to tell wackier, more pulpy stories. It'll probably never be my favorite thing I read that week, unless the week's not that good, I suppose. But
true.
But it's always a nice little like dessert towards the end of my stack, as it were. I mean, I read digitally, so it's not a stack, but
But at the end of your queue, if you will.
Yeah. Now I want pancakes, because I said the word stack. So. There you go. That's Batman Superman 18. And obviously, Ivan Reis is still. I mean, there's not a whole lot to add at this point with Ivan Reis's art here, because it's just pretty.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing like the classic versions with the modern day versions, and it's just like, yet they all seem unique.
Yeah,
right?
he's got the chubby Lex, who's the one from the Batman world, where Lex is just this guy who's trying to prove that Martha's up to no good, like locked in the cell. But then we have the Atom Lex, who's the ultimate villain one, who's been jumping around, and has been supplying Martha with all this stuff to like mess up her world.
Yeah,
which is interesting. It's interesting in the world that he's trying to make that's perfect is the one that has Superman in it. I think that's a very interesting detail.
Right. It's the one that he knows. From
Lex's perspective, I mean, though, like the perfect world that he's trying to build is a one that has Superman in it. I think that's almost like an admission, ultimately, that Lex has to accept that the better version of the world is the one with Superman in it.
Well, I mean, when you look at it though, too, it's the one that he knows, that he's already familiar with, right?
But is it? We don't know what world this Lex came from.
No, but it's when you associate Lex with Superman, that's the one that he knows how to handle. So if there's a world with only Superman, that's only one person that he has to deal with. He doesn't have to deal with Bruce.
Yeah, but how do you know that this Lex came from a world with Superman?
I don't. I'm projecting.
Yeah, you don't know that.
Yeah. But you don't know that either. We're both agnostic here. You don't know that he did come from a world without Superman.
I never said that. I said we didn't know. I know that we don't know. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what we don't know. All right.
I know what we don't know. And you don't know what I know that we don't know, that I don't know that you don't know.
They don't know that we know that they don't know. That's it.
Do you know what you're rating the book though?
I do. I'm gonna give this an 8.
I'm also happy to. I'll go 7.5. Nice 7.5. Nice 7.5. All right. I'm very hungry, but there is one huge book still left to discuss. Strange Adventures, issue 10. Tom King, writing with Mitch Gerads and Doc Shaner on the art, and this has been obviously a fantastic book throughout its run, and this is a very prominent issue because this is the one where Mr. Terrific sends a letter
Mm-hmm.
He sent a letter to Alana, and she basically the narration of this issue is the letter as we see her kind of going about her day after she's read the letter. She reads this in the morning, and the art for the most part, at least in the present day stuff, is all her. She showers, she puts on her makeup, she goes and does publicity, she takes photos with the army and the military. She she gets the jetpack to go there and come back, and then she takes off her makeup, she gets ready for bed, and eventually Adam comes home and asks, this is a letter from Terrific, what's it about?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we'll get into what's in the letter in a minute.
No,
but,
right.
Yeah.
But it's also what she's doing as a representative of Rand, and it looks like she is making weapon sales, right? It looks like they're selling Randian technology to the military to fight the Picts.
The beauty of it, though, is that all of this is done with the knowledge she's learned from this letter. And so as she's going through the day and she's pretending to still be the same Alana, and she's putting on the fake smile, she's doing all these things, she's doing all this knowing that her heart is probably changed from what it was that morning, when she read it. So
yeah, she's still putting on a face, though.
But the beauty of it, though, is that we don't know everything yet, because we're only just discovering the letter as the issue goes on. So we're only getting a sense that there's something underlying as she's doing the press, as she's talking to the president, as she's taking these photographs, and there's just this kind of this hiding of emotion. And to be fair, that's been a big theme of the book, because Adam's been hiding how he's been really feeling the entire time. So you get all this going on. So, and we see kind of the ends of the war. We see Adam killing various Picts, his execution style throughout the book. We see him strategizing. They even give us a map of Ran, I guess, at the start, and talk about how they've captured some of the East, so now they have to try and take the West and all the rest of it.
It shows how brutal this war has become with the Picts on Rand. It's not like this gentleman's war, right? Like, we see him go down to the sea people, right? And just see how many of them are just floating there dead, and then we see the sea people attack what I would assume was a Pict creature, and how vicious and brutal they are. And it's like, what has this war done to the residents of Rand? Underlying this. But we also got, towards the end of that part of the story, we get that fun thing where it's Shayna's art, but it goes from finished to unfinished, right? Like, you go across the page. So again, it's almost like, is this just a fabrication? What exactly is the truth? And that's what leads here too, because I know this is Mr. Terrific's, I figured it out, but there's still 2 issues left, right?
Yeah, there's still more to this. There's definitely going to be more. I think one of the things I love about the start is even the idea that the first thing Alana does after reading this letter is she goes for a shower. Like, she has to go and clean herself off. Of it. It's very symbolic. It makes a lot of sense. And then the idea of putting on the fake face, because we talked about how she's it's the fake smile. She's doing all this publicity, knowing what she knows now. But the idea of putting on makeup is it's almost a very literal. You're putting on your face. You're putting on your fake face. It's not quite a mask, but in a way it kind of is.
Right.
So yeah, to get to the actual content of this letter, though, which is, basically Terrific talking about how there's 3 inconsistencies. There's 3 things that don't quite add up. And the first one is that you shouldn't have won the war, right? The Pict war on Ran, you should not have won that. Something doesn't add up. Like, they basically let you win, which is just kind of interesting. And then the second side of it is, it also doesn't make sense that we are losing. That, they've somehow outsmarted Batman, and that doesn't usually happen.
With Phoenix, because Batman had plans to preserve cities, and there's no way the Picts could have figured that out. It's Batman. And then Mr. Terrific even mentions, he's like, there's a lot of people here that believe that if Batman has enough time, you can't defeat him. So this doesn't line up. Yeah.
And, and obviously as we're reading some of this, we're seeing the horrific imagery of just executing Pict up and down a beach. And if you think back to, like again before we get to the final revelation, but if you think back to like when the various pick were yelling Adam Strange's name and like they really like gave across this idea of how much they hate him as a war criminal and all that. But so we have that. So the pick chose to lose the war. I love that line is given as she's at the podium at the White House. There's something so symbolic about the idea of like lying on that stage, like lying in that particular place. It's just very
and how bad that is.
Yeah. So that's a really neat touch. That's when you get to all the stuff with the water on Ran itself. But yeah, so it's like okay, so but why are we losing? Like we're losing. Like this is the thing. You talk a lot about Ran fighting back and winning the war and how hard it was, but if you stop and think about it, like Earth is way better prepared for something like this. We have an entire Justice League. We have an army of superheroes.
Multiversal shenanigans, I believe he says.
We've had crisis after crisis. We fought off alien invasions, but Ran never had. Ran somehow won this war, and right. So obviously it ties back into them letting them win. But why are we losing now? This is strange. Like something's not quite right. You know, clearly the amount of effort the war was, you know, which again suggests that they were underfighting, you know, on Ran. So, and I mean, obviously, even the image again. We talked about the shower earlier, talking about cleaning off the you know what she's learned in the letter and putting on the face. But there's even a panel after she's made this speech to the White House. She reads some of the news sitting in a toilet seat. It's obviously a very intimate setting, but if you look at the idea of this art here, I mean, a person's at their most sort of embarrassed and vulnerable when they're sitting in a toilet seat, right? You know, it's pretty straightforward stuff, but she literally goes straight from talking to the public and now knowing what she's saying is a lie, effectively. I mean, obviously she was always playing it up. She was always doing the politicizing of what it was, but now she knows it's all based on bullshit, and then she literally goes and has a shit. Like, I mean, that's a really crude way of putting it, but
if that's what she's doing, or like, I just think it's the vulnerability aspect. Whatever she's doing on the toilet, it's the fact that she is, you know, like you said, at her most vulnerable. But that's where she is in the story. But
then she has to wash her hands clean of it as well. Now, obviously, yes, everyone washes their hands. Well, most people should wash their hands.
You should. Although the fact that we survived through a pandemic tells me that a lot of people don't do what they're supposed to over the course of the year. So
of course, but not only is it again the symbolism of washing and like you know getting her hands clean again after she's made this speech, in knowing she's lying, but the look she gives herself in the reflection, like the reflection, like. You know, if you go back to the few pages where she's on camera and she's putting on the smile, she's doing everything the way she's supposed to, and it's very, you know, calibrated. It's very, very orchestrated for the camera. And then you look at that expression in the mirror as she's washing her hands when she's private and alone. Like, she still has kind of a smile on her face when she's on the toilet seat, when she's looking at the phone and she's like reading the responses, like things are going well. It's almost like for a second she kind of forgot, like, that she was, you know, the charade she knew she was in now.
Well, again, that's where she's at her most, right? That's where she doesn't have to put on anything, right?
Like, well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like she's no, but that's what I'm saying. She's not gotten to that point yet. She's kind of forgotten, and she's sort of like saying, "Oh, the speech was a success." She's looking at the responses on social media or whatever, but then it hits her again what she's learned that morning, and she's looking at the reflection in the mirror. Like, you know, like I'm wondering if there's like a sort of a sequential sort of thought process, because she's kind of smiling in that top panel. It's like she's not quite like tuned into that side of her yet. But yeah, so the art, I mean, obviously what I'm really saying here is the art is phenomenal. There's so many like subtleties and everything you know, with that, with Alana's expressions, the double meaning behind things, but then she's back into public mode where she's talking to the military and she's looking at the weapons and the tanks and all the rest of it. But this is where the letter gets really interesting, though, is because it starts talking about, you know, the start of the book, the Strange Adventures book that Adam wrote was, you know, for my daughter whom I lost in the war, my life is spent with grief. And Terrific goes on to analyze what this actually meant in the Bible, where this quote comes from, and how it wasn't about mourning a death. It was about what you felt guilty about. It was about what you gave up.
Yeah.
And we've been theorizing so much: is the daughter actually dead, or did he let her be killed to win the war? Which I think that was probably the biggest theory, or the strongest one, which is that he actually gave the daughter up to be murdered as a sacrifice to win the war in some way or something. Turns out it's actually kind of worse. And again, talk about the symbolism, that final panel in that 9-panel grid, where it says the thing that it says in the letter here, as he's finishing this passage from the Bible, it says they devised to take away my life. It says that as she's standing in front of a huge American flag, and it's that simple thing where she is tiny. She feels so small, and she's enveloped by the country and the flag and the status of that.
It's basically that. It's also, if you look at the meta context of it, this country especially will love to, support the troops, support the military, but then when they come back from fighting, it's, oh, you have no use for us. It's super hard for veterans, right, to adapt back to life, and it's basically here almost like it's almost the culture to stack up like you're such a hero. Oh my God, all the sacrifices you made, yet they're only words. Like there's little actions people actually follow.
And keep in mind the 2 pages or whatever before this is her encouraging the young troops to go and fight. And I think that final panel here, the symbolism of not just the fact that it's the flag, but the idea that she feels small and she feels like she's being dwarfed by the idea of the flag and being like swallowed up by it. Is that churn? Yeah, that churn. Yeah, and obviously King, who was in the CIA, the fact that he's putting themes like this, maybe this gives us an insight into how maybe he felt at times, that he's part of the machine, that he's part of the system.
Exactly, and that's what that whole final line is. They devised to take away my life.
Yeah,
is you get me over there, tell me how important, and then we're just a piece of the machine. You don't actually mean any of this.
And that transition on the next page as well, because she flies off with a jetpack, and the troops are all looking up at her, and it transitions to her with a jetpack, in the war in Ran, and they're talking about winning, and they're all united, killing the Pict, and like you say, it comes undone. That last panel is where the art, like the color fades away, and it's not finished.
We're winning, and it's just pure chaos, right?
And it's but this is the thing, it's at the end of it, right? And it's as she's arriving home, it transitions back to her arriving home. So it's the idea that in her head, the heroic image she had of her husband in the war is being undone. Yeah. Right. And she lands, she starts to undo her shirt and like get comfortable, takes off the makeup. And again, the face changes. Like she's very stern looking by the end of that page.
Well, she's so, through all of this, she looks very glamorous, right?
Yeah.
And then here, this last panel, she's got a warrior face, right? This is a woman that's seen battle, for sure.
And I think more to the point, she's getting ready to go into a fight. And but the fight's with Adam, the fight's not with anything else.
And in the mirror, because she, and also here, she's broken, right? This is, King and Gerads working in unison to show that this has fractured her.
Oh yeah,
right?
she's obviously
her husband, her planet.
The next page she smashes the mirror, and it's this thing. But it's during this page where she's taking off the makeup with the wipes, where we hear the meat of this, right? The real, the theory is that Adam, he faked the daughter's death. Aaliyah was not killed. Basically, he gave up Earth. He made a deal. Right. This is the theory.
Save Ran.
He basically let us save Ran, and you can have Earth, which maybe is more desirable for whatever reason. And as collateral, they have taken the daughter. And all of the stuff, all of this war crime stuff with him brutally murdering Pict, they basically agreed to do that so that he would never look suspicious, so that you'll look like you were overly vicious. And that's something that Terrific talks about, is that when they accused Adam of all the stuff that he'd done in the war to win, it was then spun by her as, yeah, exactly, that's how determined we were. That's why you need us on your side to win, which in turn makes Adam look the last person who would have made a deal with the enemy. And
well, we've done this too in U.S. history, right? Like, who armed bin Laden against the Soviets? The United States, who then in turn create problems with Al Qaeda later down the line. You know, we have a history of doing this, of arming people who end up becoming our foes.
Why?
And here, you know.
Yeah, what I think is wonderful about this is that obviously, you know, the final lines of this as he's summing this up, you know, like, you shouldn't have won the war. We should be winning based on you winning because we're much stronger than you are just from a power level. And then on top of that, your daughter, like, she did not die. Like, and he sums it up by saying he lied to Ran, he lied to Earth, and he lied to you. Now, part of me likes the idea, of course, that Alana is a good enough person that she would still be upset if she found out that Adam tried to sacrifice a whole other planet of innocent people to save Ran. And maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. But to make it personal, he gave up their daughter to do it. And so maybe we'll find out where her morality lies amongst the other details. But if nothing else, her daughter was taken from her and she was told that she was dead.
Right.
For this lie, for this purpose.
Right. I could almost get around the fact that she was almost fine with giving up Earth, like you said, right? But she had never factored in her daughter having a part of that. And that her daughters are somewhere presumably still alive, because that's the collateral, right? Like, they're not going to kill her until Earth is theirs. And
keep in mind as well that, you know, her whole thing these past months, whatever, is been to convince Earth how to fight, that they need to fight. Her job has effectively been trying to convince everyone how to save Earth. And she's believing that is her goal. And the whole time is that maybe Adam's like, nah, not really. Like, you know, and I'm thinking of that end of that issue, whatever it was, 7-6, whatever it was, with him sitting in the room with all the body bags, crying. Now think about the context of that scene now, knowing what he may have done, assuming that Terrific is completely right.
Well, there's that too, and Phoenix in of itself. What did he have to do with Phoenix now? Because if that reeks of an inside, right? How'd the Pix figure out Batman's defenses and whatnot, right? That's Terrific's whole point of bringing that up. But they still managed to.
Yeah, and I love the fact that there's some blood smeared in the glass of the stairs when Alana's coming down, because she's punched the mirror. Her hand's obviously bleeding.
Her fist is still bleeding.
Yeah. It's a really nice touch, and it looks down because obviously we hear on the previous page right after she smashed the mirror. You know, Alana, you upstairs, whatever. He has no idea what's about to come for him, and he looks up. You know, that final panel. The first time we see Adam in present day in this issue. It's him looking up saying, Alana, is everything okay? And, like, I hope the next issue is just... Because I almost think that maybe there'll be a different format next issue, because now we've gotten to the end of the fantasy of what the war was. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think there'll be flashbacks still, but it'll be the true flashbacks of the deal or something like that, yeah.
But what we saw, how... Because it keeps getting less and less like these are fun space adventure war to, no, look how brutal this war was.
But even that's part of the lie, the propaganda, as pointed out by this issue. That they want Adam to look like he did go too far, but that's to convince you that he would never work with them.
Right, but I'm talking about Ran in and of itself. Like, he was also getting them... He was getting the different factions of Ran to become as brutal as him, right? You know, so if that all plays as part of the lie.
Yeah, not even just that. The idea of the pride that Alana felt that her planet was able to fight this off is a lie as well. She's felt pride over nothing. Everything she said in the news about, oh, you need us because we were able to win this. No, you didn't. It was all a facade. So not only is he lied about on a very, very personal level the death of her daughter, which is like soul crushing. Like, she could have had her daughter with her all these years, but all the pride that she's felt and the fact that everyone else on Rand who also felt this pride, it's all based on a lie, is actually kind of devastating. And maybe there's more to this, and I do think there's maybe a bit of a swerve, because I don't know if we're going to go quite outright to Adam helped like destroy an entire city on Earth, because that is actually very dark.
Yeah. But he might as well have, you know, because of this deal. And again, I don't think Holt has it all completely figured out. I think there's more to that story too.
I think
that's going to be revealed.
There may be some more to make us think he could be more redeemed, but right now it doesn't feel that he can be redeemed.
Right now, he's the villain of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, because what I love about this is I'm thinking back to the previous issues, and I remember talking about how at first Alana felt more villainous than he did, and it felt like she was pulling the strings, but then as time went on, it felt like, no, it seems like he knows stuff that she doesn't. Now looking back, like, that's almost part of the whole fabrication, is that he made her, because of who she is and her personality type, all of her attitude came from what they went through, from losing their daughter, from the war they fought, which was apparently mostly fake, right? Obviously, there was really people dying on both sides, but it was all kind of like a staged thing,
right?
And all of that, like, she's the one who has had her strings pulled in a sense. Again, assuming all of this is completely right, and I suspect that a lot of it is in the ballpark, if not right. Like, I expect there'll be some more details. There might be a little bit of a swerve with some of it, but there's too much of this that lines up with everything so far that
I still think there's a part of it that has to do with that interrogation they did of him, almost as if they made him a sleeper agent kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, not that it didn't necessarily freeze him from stuff, but I was getting, even though I've never seen the show, from seeing it discussed, I was getting Homeland vibes throughout this. You know, like, here's this American hero who's returned that's really a sleeper agent. You know, and how much more destruction and chaos can he cause from the inside versus the out? And that's what I was getting throughout as I read this. So
yeah,
it's
I would love to go back and read all the issues again, because I feel like knowing this and knowing, like, just thinking about how Rand treated Mr. Terrific when he was there, like, and their pride from all this, knowing perhaps where it came from now, is just, it adds this extra layer to everything throughout the story. So
also, real quick, the quote that this ends on is from someone named Jack Kamen. So I looked him up, and he's an old school artist. He used to do stuff for EC Comics. He also did advertising art. So when you read this quote, so say you're doing an arm, you see the drapery crunch up to where the elbow breaks, and then the flare coming off the shoulder, seam down. Once you tell somebody this is what happens, why it happens, you rule supreme. I didn't understand that exactly until I looked up that he used to do advertising, and it's all about the sell, right? So if he was doing advertising art, him describing basically how to fake, like, you're not really drawing a dress, right? You're showing how it, you know, how it sits on the arm. You know, you don't actually need to know the nitty gritty to know, but it's almost like not a lie exactly, but it's almost a cheat. And I feel that's summation of this for both of their sides, right? Because what Alana's doing, going through and selling this idea of the war, you know, to keep it going, of the Picts invading Earth, and then all of Adam's stuff, and how he was able to sell it to her. It's just, there's layers upon layers here, and Tom King's way too smart. You know, that's what we're getting down to. Between this and Rorschach, he's very, very smart.
That's what makes this interesting. This issue is so interesting to me, is that, yeah, she has been doing the sell, but up until now, she's been doing it from a place of genuine, like, you know, like, this day where she goes and does all this is the first time where she's had to do it knowing that it's kind of based on a falsehood, and that she's hawking something that isn't quite true, and that presumably now she actually might doubt that they can save Earth, and presumably Adam's going to have to, like, come clean and, like, help fight them back somehow. And how do you do that and get the daughter back if she indeed is there to be taken back? You know, there's a lot of, you know, questions that arise from that. But
yeah,
now, a big issue, definitely the big one that changes things. And I think it makes sense to do this with 2 issues left, because there's so much, like, fallout to this. Like, I almost expect the next issue just to be them having their conversation the whole time. Like, I expect just the back and forth between the 2 of them with the truth of what the deal was. And then issue 12, probably how they kind of solve the war on Earth and, you know, win that. I mean, I'm sure it'll be more interested in that, because, you know, King knows what he's doing, and I'm just ballparking, but phenomenal.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time faulting something in this. And obviously, the art is tremendous. We pointed out some moments in pieces, and just how much it adds to the story. Not just because it depicts what you're supposed to see, but the art also adds subtext constantly.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of comic books don't do. And I think it's something that King brings a lot out of his artists. He knows how to like direct them and how to let them sort of like add to the story in ways that are that's beyond just, oh, that looks like Batman jumping off of a roof and it looks very convincing or it looks very stylized. There's also subtext there too, and I think that's very impressive. All right, with that said, Matt, what are you giving Strange Adventures issue 10?
9.5.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with a 10. I was going to go 9.5 until we spoke about it, and I think it's one of those things where the more I think about it and the more I talk about, like, because I think when you're reading it and you're reading Alana go through all this, but you don't know everything she read yet. I think going back through it again and talking about it scene by scene and talking about all those moments she has with the full knowledge adds so much more to it. You know, this book in general is one that just warrants being read twice every issue. Not because you won't follow or understand it, but because it just adds so much to it once you have the full scope of what the issue was trying to say. And I feel like I almost have that with every issue of this book when we talk about it. It's like every time we go back through it again and talk about each scene in context, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I'm getting even more appreciation than I did when I actually read it. And
yeah, well, yeah. I found that with King, that happens a lot. You know, so... Which is because good. It is so layered, like you said.
It's just so rewarding because of that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So, you know, and you know, those pages I even mentioned, like, you know, that page where she's flying off to the White House, but she's like holding her shoes.
Yeah.
While she's in there in her sort of fairly fancy business suit. Just, you know, beautiful. The sun behind her, like, you know, it's stunning stuff. All right, there you go. That's sorry, not Mr. Miracle. I'm going back to the other King book. Strange Adventures, issue 10. Which will take us on to the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and top 5 books. And, you know, we're getting to the point now where they've added enough stuff back into the weekly rotation that there is enough books to like have to make cuts. Yeah, there's competition now. So yeah, panel/moment, Matt, what you got?
I'm gonna go with after Alana punches the mirror, and it's all fractured, and you know her makeup's off, and we're seeing her true form. You know, so good. Plus, Gerads is so good as an artist. I can't wait to see him working on other things. You know, other than just Tom King works.
Yeah, this is tough. That
said, well, you figure that out. It could have been stuff from Robin. I loved a lot of stuff that happened. Robin, Stargirl. Yeah, some great continuity stuff, but I mean, come on, it's Gerads.
I mean, that 2-page GSA spread in Stargirl's, like, I might give it to that, even though I think from a writing I think from like an artistry standpoint, there's definitely much better things in Strange Adventures.
Really, but I like looking at it. The Justice Society.
But there was such a pop. I'm gonna go with that. Since you're giving Strange Adventures the shout, I'll give
them the cheap pop.
I'll give them the cheap pop for the GSA 2-pager. All right, cover of the week, Matt. What you got?
All right, so there's a lot of good ones. The Strange Adventures one's really good. It's the Gerads one especially. But I'm gonna go with the Action Comics variant by Janin. It just looks like 40s era Superman. It's the oranges and the reds. Yeah, it just pops. It looks so good.
It's very nice. Very, very nice. I will say the main detective cover I think is really good, and the variant's actually very nice as well with Batman and the clay. As if he's been swallowed up. I think that's a really nice variant. I think the Robin variant with the reds and the blacks, the high
Manipul.
Yeah, it's very pretty. I'm going to be boring and go with the regular Strange Adventures though, the Gerads one.
Yeah,
But
It's good though.
yeah, she's wiping the steam off the mirror. So very representative of what the issue is actually, which is not always true for the covers. Sometimes the covers are a little bit misleading.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my pick. All right, best art of the week. Who you got?
Strange Adventures.
Of course, it's Strange Adventures. But
Shout out to Action Comics though, and shout out to Robin. So.
Action, Tech, Robin,
yeah,
all had great art, but Strange Adventures,
yep,
bar none. It's just it's just too good. The only negative thing about it is that it's just maybe a little too good. that's right? The one downside. All right, top 5, go.
All right, 1, Strange Adventures. 2, Stargirl Spring Break Special. 3, I'm trying to remember now. 3, Action Comics. 4, Robin. 5, Detective Comics.
All right, my number 1 is Strange Adventures. Number 2 is a little tough because I rate them the same, and I'm just trying to think in my head now which one I like more. I think I might just I'll go Detective number 2, Action number 3, 4 Robin, and 5 I think based on ratings it actually would be something else, but I'm going to go Stargirl just because of the excitement. But technically it should be Batman Superman based on ratings. But you know what? Funny. This is look. These aren't just mathematical. There's a little bit of heart that goes into this too. All right. So that's my top 5. So cool. Well, I will tell you what's coming next week then from DC Comics, and I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you about a couple of them because you weren't here for that last month. Yeah. So we got Batman 109 coming next week. We got Justice League 62. We have Batman Catwoman issue 5. We have The Swamp Thing issue 4. Suicide Squad issue 4 is out as well. Green Lantern issue 3 is out. Crime Syndicate issue 4. I was right. Nice house in the lake is next week. Both horror books are next week. We got a double horror dose next week. That's exciting. Yeah. Next, Batman Second Son issue 3. So we'll be talking about that. That's chapters 7 through 9 of the digital series. Batman Fortnite 0 Point issue 4. No one cares. Man Bat issue 5 is out, which is the final issue of that mini. Sensational Wonder Woman issue 4, which is the collection of digital first. Batman The Adventure Continues season 2 issue 1 is out. Crushing Lobo issue 1 are out. It's rare that I won't read an issue 1, but I might be tempted to skip that.
Yeah, I'm not like if I didn't have Conjuring and Nice House, I maybe I'd have time.
I've got 2 Patreon books and I've got Conjuring and Nice House, so I think Crushing Lobo might be left to the wayside.
Yeah.
Let's not tell Connor though. We'll let Connor think he's reading it.
We'll let that, and he had asked. I got to look up what the hockey schedule is, but it might be a short week next week because that might be the only day he can record. So, we don't got time, but don't tell him. Keep that hush, guys. That's our secret.
Yes. He doesn't have any Patreon books next week though, because he did all his.
What if someone gives a Patreon book and it's Crushing Lobo?
Actually, it's an interesting thing. So David makes him read Justice League right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to go double shipping though soon.
Yeah.
So I wonder, because presumably you don't want Connor to read one issue with us the first month it's double shipping and then constantly be just falling more and more behind, but still make him read it, because I don't know if there's any fun in him like talking about the same book that we and you already talked about when it came out.
Right. So
I'm just going to say that and let David decide what he wants to do with that. And then Connor can just cry when he hears you talking about Justice League Dark. So
it's so good though. It's so good.
So and then for the last book as well, which we mentioned, is Conjuring the Lover issue 1. So cool stuff. So yeah, I'm excited for next week. I think there's a few really interesting bits and pieces in there. Obviously Swamp Thing might be the highest in my excitement list, but I'm really intrigued by the horror book, especially Nice House on the Lake. I'm really looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, I got Swamp Thing, Green Lantern, the end of Man Bat, right there, and then you got Conjuring, Nice House, Batman, Catwoman. So,
a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah, healthy in quality and also quantity.
definitely starting to read on Tuesday, because especially if we have a short week. Yeah.
Yes. So cool. So hopefully we can record on Friday so Cara can make it. If not, it'll be me and Matt again next week. But you will have an episode next week as per usual. Episode 256.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special about that number. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers. And of course, those of you who are still waiting on me doing some Patreon books, I will be doing both Animal Man and American Vampire next week. I was going to do one this week, but then realised that Solicits were here and they take up like 45 minutes, so I decided to push them both to next week. So thank you to our Patreon producers, which at the time of recording are Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley.
Stanley, not Stanley. Excelsior!
They are $20 or more at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, but you can support us for much less than that. You can support us for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming. The podcast, of course, but also other content from MailFuzz TV, the movies and TV reviews and all the other things you get in the YouTube channel. You've not seen those. Do check them out. If you like horror movies or sci-fi movies, there's a dedicated horror movie podcast with myself and Tim called Screams After Midnight. If you like science fiction movies, there's a dedicated movie podcast with myself and Tara called The Atomic Cinema Experiment. They both have podcast feeds, but they're both also on the MailFuzz TV YouTube channel, along with this podcast. So go have a look if you're interested. But $1 or more to support all the content. $5 or more in particular gets you early access to this podcast by a day. So if that interests you, check that out. You can also support us for free by simply hitting the like button, subscribing, getting us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, sharing us out, that kind of thing. All those things do help. I really can't emphasize enough how rating and reviewing the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from, or liking and subscribing on YouTube help, because they really do. In fact, Matt was missing for issue 1 of Wonder Girl last week, and there was a character in it who was demanding that people pound the like and subscribe buttons. So it's a shame Matt wasn't here to yell it out, because it felt like you would have done.
Probably would have.
Yes.
I'm not going to do it now, though, because now it's expected.
Of course, yes. I don't know what you're going to yell at the end, but I'm sure you'll yell something silly. But yes, there you go. That's all my promotion. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. But remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Real question, though. Where was Liberty Bell?